Before the college entrance exam, the class beauty poured sulfuric acid into everyone's water cups. After I learned what had happened, I told our homeroom teacher, he called the police, and everyone was unharmed, even went on to get into top universities, but the class beauty was taken away by the police because of it, missed the college entrance exam, and slit her wrists in suicide before she died. The class beauty posted a voice message in the class chat, sobbing between hiccups, sob sob sob. Baby just wanted to tease you all for fun, but you did this to me and broke this baby's heart. After the class beauty died, the whole class blamed me for it. They said the class beauty was just a baby, and she was only joking around with them, so why did I have to hurt her? My boyfriend took the lead in having me dragged away, watching the other students mix sulfuric acid into the water and force it down my throat. I was burned through my entire body and died in agony. When I opened my eyes, I was back to the day the class beauty secretly poured sulfuric acid into everyone's water cups. After secretly spiking each of our water cups, the class beauty tiptoed back to her seat, her white canvas shoes making almost no sound on the floor. I lay with my head on the desk, pretending to doze, and could see everything clearly through the gap in my folded arms. She was clutching that little brown glass bottle in her hand, her movements light and quick, like she was playing a game. When she got to Zhou Pingqi's desk, she even paused for 2 extra seconds, probably hesitating over whether to pour in a little more. In the end, she twisted the cap back on, stuffed the bottle into her uniform pocket, and trotted back to her own seat in tiny quick steps. I closed my eyes. My heart was beating a little fast, but not from fear. It was the kind of exhilaration that surged through a hunter's blood when, lurking in the dark, they finally saw the full layout of the trap. In my last life, I was far too stupid. The moment I saw her add something to the water, my first instinct was to run and tell the homeroom teacher. The homeroom teacher called the police, and when they arrived, all the class's water cups were sent for testing. It really was sulfuric acid, and the concentration was quite high. Everyone was fine. When Sue Annie was taken away, she was crying buckets of tears. 2 police officers held her by the arms, one on each side. She was so limp she seemed boneless, and as they dragged her out, she kept looking back and shouting, "Baby just wanted to play a little joke on you guys. Baby didn't mean it. Why are you trying to hurt baby?" The whole class had red-rimmed eyes. Zhou Pingqi stood on his seat, his fists clenched so hard they cracked, staring daggers in my direction. The hatred surging in those eyes lived as if it would devour me whole. He was my boyfriend, from freshman year to senior year, 3 years. He was the one who pursued me, he said. "Young Jinjin, you're the most special girl I've ever met," he said. "Jinjin, I'll love only you for the rest of my life." I believed him. Only later did I realize that a person can tell you, "I'll love you for a lifetime," while in their heart they place someone else on a pedestal. Sue Annie was that goddess. Her voice message was posted in the class group chat on the 3rd day after she was taken into custody. Her voice was soft and sugary, crying so hard she could barely catch her breath. Every few sobs, a tiny hiccup slipped out. She said, "Sob sob sob, baby was just trying to tease you guys for fun, hick, and you treat baby like this, hick, you've broken baby's heart." I listened to that voice message twice, not because I felt sorry for her, but because it was absurd. An 18-year-old poured sulfuric acid into dozens of people's water cups and said she was just trying to tease you guys for fun. Then, after being exposed and held legally accountable, she wanted to blame others for breaking her heart. Even more absurd was that everyone accepted this logic. The day the news came that Sue Annie had slit her wrists, the class group chat exploded. The screen was flooded with "Annie, baby, and how could this happen?" with sobs and wails piled together like a grand memorial service. Then, all at once, the blame turned toward me. "It's all Yang Jinjin's fault. If she hadn't snitched, Annie wouldn't have been taken away. Annie already said it was just a joke. Why does she have to keep making such a big deal out of it?" Exactly. It was supposed to be a bit of fun, and she had to blow it out of proportion. And now look, someone's dead. Is she satisfied now? 2. Not a single person said she was wrong for pouring sulfuric acid into the cup. Not one. Sue Annie used her own death to stage a flawless moral ambush. She cast herself as the victim, and turned me into the vicious woman who killed an innocent little angel. When Zhou Pingqi came to the classroom to find me, his expression was very calm, too calm for him. He said, "Jinjin, come out with me for a moment." I went out with him. At the corner of the hallway, 3 other classmates were waiting there. I knew them. They were all Zhou Pingqi's guys, and all hopelessly devoted to Sue Annie. When they tied me up, I didn't struggle much. It wasn't that I'd given up, it was just that I had no time to react. The rough rope dug into the skin of my wrists, and a towel was stuffed into my mouth as I was dragged into the chemistry lab. The back door was open, and there was no one in the hallway. They pressed my head over the sink in the lab bench, and Zhou Pingqi unscrewed a bottle of water, aiming it at my mouth. I caught a sharp, pungent smell. It wasn't water, it was sulfuric acid. "Aren't you the one who loves tattling?" Zhou Pingqi looked down at me, his expression so gentle it was almost merciful. "Go on, try it yourself and see whether it really kills people, if you don't die." Then Annie really was just joking. "If you do die," he tilted his head slightly, as if thinking it over carefully, then go keep her company. The moment the acid was poured into my mouth, I tasted something more painful than death itself. It wasn't physical pain, it was the absurd feeling of being betrayed by the whole world. You saved everyone, and everyone turned around and killed you, all while believing they were avenging justice, from beginning to end. I never cried. When the searing pain of my burning organs and viscera spread through me, there was only one thought left in my mind: if I could do it all over again, if heaven gave me a chance to start over, I would never call the police again. The moment I opened my eyes, I saw the sunlight, the early summer sun, pale yet bright, slanted into the window and fell across the mottled paint on the desk. The air smelled of chalk dust and sweat. The fan overhead creaked as it turned, so slowly it seemed like an old man too tired to move. There were footsteps in the hallway, people laughing, and others shouting, "Good luck on the college entrance exam." Alive, I was actually alive. My mind went blank for a moment, then memories came crashing in all at once. Sue Annie's voice message, the screen full of abuse in the class group chat, Joe Pinkchi's face, gentle in a way that was almost cruel, and the searing pain of sulfuric acid pouring down my throat. I took a deep breath and caught the lingering scent of laundry detergent in the air. It was lavender scented, bought for €3 a bag from the little convenience store by the school gate in our senior year, and it lasted an entire semester. The seats in the classroom were still the same. I sat in the third row by the window. Sue Annie was in the center of the first row, and Joe Pinkchi was in the second row by the aisle. Water cups were neatly lined up at each desk corner, clear plastic cups printed with different patterns. I lay sprawled across the desk, my face buried in my arms, pretending to still be asleep. 3. The door was pushed open. Students drifted into the classroom in ones and twos, carrying breakfast and yawning. Some were discussing the conic section problem they'd worked on last night, while others were complaining that the last big question on the math paper was way too hard. Tomorrow was the college entrance exam, so today's schedule was free study. The classroom was quieter than usual, but beneath that quiet simmered a restlessness, like water just about to boil. I heard Sue Annie's footsteps pause. She sat in her seat for 3 seconds, then stood up again. Smack. The sound of a hand slapping the tabletop wasn't loud, but it was enough to make everyone look up. Sue Annie stood in the center of the front row, both hands planted on the desk, leaning forward slightly, her ponytail swinging in a pretty arc. She had a round face, big eyes, naturally pink lips, and 2 dimples whenever she smiled. Today she was wearing a school uniform skirt, with a strawberry hair clip pinned at her collar, looking every bit like a sweet girl straight out of a manga. Tomorrow's the college entrance exam already. Her voice was sweet and soft, the tail end of her words rising and stretching out long, as if she were being coquettish. Baby wants to have a drink with everyone. Can we use water instead of alcohol? A few classmates laughed. She used this cutesy tone every day, and the whole class had long since gotten used to it. That was just Sue Annie's personality, innocent and lively, sweetly spoiled and adorable. Everyone treated her like a baby, and she called herself one. 2. No one thought there was anything wrong with it. Even if someone occasionally frowned, they'd be brushed off with a single line from the others: "She's just a kid, an 18-year-old kid." Joe Pinkchi was the first to stand up. He picked up the water glass on the table and raised it toward Sue Annie, a gentle smile playing at the corners of his mouth, the same one I had been obsessed with in my past life. That smile once made me think he was the warmest guy in the world. Now it just makes me sick. Any suggestion is a good one. His voice wasn't loud, but it was clear, just like every time he stood up to speak for her. Tomorrow we'll all be going our separate ways, so let's treat this glass of water as a blessing for today. Come on, everyone, raise your glasses. As he said that, his gaze slid past me without stopping. Sparse sounds of chairs scraping and cups being picked up broke out in the classroom. Some people smiled as they lifted their glasses, others shouted, "Good luck." On the college entrance exam, a fake sense of liveliness filled the air. Like a last supper, I slowly straightened up from the desk. The cup was right next to my right hand, a clear plastic cup, with a crooked little rabbit printed on the side. It was filled with warm water I'd poured in this morning, and by now it should have gone completely cold. I didn't know whether anything had been added to it. I saw Sue Annie when she was pouring the water, but I wasn't sure whether she'd tampered with my cup. In my last life, the test results showed that everyone in the class had sulfuric acid except her and Joe Pinkchi. This life, I'd gotten the God's eye view early enough, but the details were still the same. Just because she was crouched by the podium pouring water into the mineral water bottle didn't mean she hadn't already put something into the cups beforehand. But that didn't matter. What mattered was that this time, I wouldn't call the police. This time, I'd make sure every last drop of this water went exactly where it was supposed to. Jinjin, for Joe Pinkchi's voice came from over there. He had already walked over to my desk with a cup of water in hand, wearing just the right amount of concern on his face. He really was good-looking, clear, handsome features and a tall, slender build. The school uniform looked even more sharp and upright on him than on anyone else. With that face and that expression, anyone who saw him would think he was worried about his girlfriend. "Why aren't you saying Anything, your face is so red. Are you running a fever? He reached out, trying to feel my forehead. I turned my head and dodged him, his hand froze in midair. He paused for a moment, then smiled. That smile was faint and light, full of the indulgence of someone thinking, my girlfriend is just being a little sulky. He pulled his hand back, not taking it seriously, then looked down at my cup and over toward Sue Annie's side. Annie specially brought drinks today, he said in the kind of tone you'd use to placate a child who wasn't being very obedient. She said it was supposed to be a surprise for everyone, so don't be a downer. Surprise, I almost laughed out loud. Yeah, it was quite a surprise. Acid diluted with water, so much of a surprise it burns right through your esophagus. Sue Annie was already standing on the platform, both hands wrapped around that pink Hello Kitty tumbler, the rim pressed to her chin, her eyes sparkling as she looked at the whole class. Behind her was the blackboard, where the 4 big characters, good luck on the college entrance exam, were written in colorful chalk. She had painstakingly drawn each stroke during last night's self-study session, then even took a photo and posted it on Moments with the caption, "Baby wishes everyone makes it to the other side. Everyone ready?" She tilted her head, her ponytail sliding from her right shoulder to her left. "Baby's going first to toast everyone." She lifted her neck and actually took a sip, a drop of water from the Hello Kitty tumbler spilled from the corner of her mouth and ran down her chin. She stuck out the tip of her tongue to lick it away. A few boys saw that move, and someone let out a whistle. Zhou Pingqi smiled too, and there was something in that smile I couldn't quite put into words. In my previous life, I thought it was gentleness. Now I understand. It was indulgence. Indulgence that didn't care about right or wrong, and didn't think about the consequences. "Come on," he said, lifting his cup a little higher and turning to face the whole class like a host. "I'd like to propose that we raise our glasses together and wish everyone good luck on the college entrance exam and a bright future ahead, and let's also wish Annie," he paused, his gaze settling on the pink figure at the podium, his voice suddenly softened, "that she'll always be our little princess." The whole class applauded, some people laughed, some shouted, "Here's to Annie staying 18 forever," and others started teasing, "Zhou Pingqi, do you like Annie or what?" Zhou Pingqi didn't deny it. He just smiled and shook his head, but there was no real denial in the gesture. It almost felt like he was saying, "You've seen right through me." I picked up my cup. The cup was cold against my palm. The surface of the water rippled slightly, reflecting the fan overhead. I looked down at that cup of water as if I were staring at a crossroads in fate. Drink it, or don't. Call the police, or don't. Save her, or don't. I chose not to save her, but I wouldn't let this cup of water go to waste. "I'll drink," I said. His voice wasn't loud, but it was enough for Zhou Pingqi to hear. He glanced at me, looking somewhat surprised. He probably expected me to refuse, to frown, to say, "Come on, quit messing around," and ruin the mood for everyone. That was the kind of reaction Yang Jinjin was supposed to have, but I wasn't Yang Jinjin anymore, or rather, I knew better than Yang Jinjin how to play along with these people. 5. I lifted my glass and tilted it toward Sue Annie, even letting a smile play at my lips. It wasn't a sincere smile, just a fake one that said, "See, I'm being such a good sport." But in a setting like this, no one bothered to tell real from fake. Sue Annie clearly loved that. Her eyes curved into 2 crescent moons. She made a heart at me with her fingers and said in a soft, sugary voice, "Jinjin is the best, baby loves you." Zhou Pingqi looked at me too, something more in his gaze, maybe surprise, maybe satisfaction, or maybe a kind of confirmation. Confirmation that he'd successfully tamed me. He reached over to put an arm around my shoulder, then bent down and said in my ear, "That's more like it." A warm breath brushed my ear, raising goosebumps all over my body. It wasn't desire, it was pure physical disgust, but I didn't pull away. In fact, I leaned slightly closer to him. I wanted everyone to think that Yang Jinjin was still the same Yang Jinjin, the one hopelessly, madly in love with Zhou Pingqi last life. When they killed me, they felt no guilt at all, because they thought I had it coming. I saved everyone, and everyone thought I was meddling, because in their eyes, everything Sue Annie did was right, and exposing Sue Annie was wrong. So this time, I won't expose her. I'll make them lift that cup of water with their own hands, and drink it themselves. 3, 2, 1. Zhou Pingqi lifted the cup, as if presiding over a ceremony. The whole class tilted their heads back at once, just as my lips were about to touch the surface of the water. "What are you all doing?" A voice came from the doorway, not loud, but carrying the unmistakable authority of a homeroom teacher, like a bucket of cold water dumped into a boiling pot. Mr. Lee stood at the classroom door holding a thermos, frowning as he swept his gaze over the entire class. He was wearing a faded polo shirt, his hair a mess, and behind his glasses were bloodshot eyes from years of staying up late grading papers. "It's free study time. What on earth are you doing?" His tone Wasn't harsh, but it wasn't exactly gentle either. It had that vibe of, I'm your homeroom teacher, I've seen it all, and don't think you can fool me. Sue Annie reacted faster than anyone else. She hid the Hello Kitty water cup behind her back, turned to face Mr. Lee, and flashed a smile so sweet it could give anyone a toothache. Mr. Lee, tomorrow's our college entrance exam already, and baby wants to have a toast with everyone. Water instead of wine, to relax a little, when she said the word. Baby, her voice turned soft as cotton candy, drawing out the last syllable. She swayed slightly, and her ponytail swung back and forth with her. That kind of cute, pleading act didn't work on most teachers, but it worked on Mr. Lee. Although he was a homeroom teacher, he was rather soft-hearted. Over the past 3 years, he had fallen for Sue Annie's baby act more than once. Late to class, no deduction, forgot your homework. Just make it up later. Talking during class, he'd turn a blind eye, as soon as Sue Annie started pouting, Mr. Lee would back down 3 inches. Sure enough, Mr. Lee's expression softened a little. He glanced at the water cups in everyone's hands, then at the big words, good luck on the Gauco written on the blackboard, and the corners of his mouth even lifted slightly. It's fine to relax, he said, his tone already shifting from homeroom teacher doing a spot check to a caring elder. But don't get too worked up. You've still got an exam tomorrow. Finish your water, then get back to studying properly. No need to make a ritual out of it. 6. After saying that, he left with his thermos in hand. The footsteps in the hallway gradually faded into the distance. The classroom fell quiet for 2 seconds, then Sue Annie turned around, stuck out her tongue at the whole class, clasped her hands together and placed them beside her face, making us sorry for the interruption. But let's keep going expression. Her little gesture flowed so naturally, like a sketch actor who'd rehearsed it 100 times. All right, she clapped her hands, her voice returning to that sweet, soft, sticky tone. Since Teacher Lee says we can relax a bit, the baby still hasn't finished what she was saying. She picked up her Hello Kitty tumbler again, cleared her throat, and her eyes curved into 2 crescents. One last thing the baby wants to say. She took a deep breath, her expression suddenly turning very serious, in a way that was almost deliberately earnest. Thank you all for taking care of me these past 3 years. The baby really likes everyone. Tomorrow's the Gauco. Let's all work hard together and make it across the finish line. Cheers, cheers, someone echoed her, and then more voices joined in. Joe Pinky picked up his glass of water again and smiled at me. The smile was so gentle it was almost absurd, as if to say, see, what a nice atmosphere. You almost ruined it just now, but good thing I stopped you. He knew nothing. He had no idea the water in his hand had been tampered with. He held up that spiked glass of water and grinned like an idiot. He thought he was the chosen knight, never realizing that in this game of chess, he was nothing more than a pawn that could be sacrificed at any moment. Shin, seeing that I still hadn't moved, Joe Pinky called out again. I came back to myself and looked at him. He stood before me, backlit, his features rimmed with gold by the sunlight. To be honest, he really was handsome, with a clean, boyish look between his brows and eyes. In my previous life, for that face and those sweet words, I turned myself into a complete fool. Not this time. Coming, I said. I lifted the water glass to my lips, the rim touching my lower lip, but I clenched my teeth shut and didn't let a single drop get into my mouth. I tipped my head back slightly, pretending to drink, my Adam's apple bobbing once as I made a swallowing sound. No one noticed that I hadn't actually drunk any of it. Everyone's attention was on Sue Annie. She stood by the podium, holding her water glass with both hands and taking tiny sips, pausing after each one to smile at someone, like a princess basking in everyone's attention. I watched Lin Kiki, who was sitting in the second row, tip her head back and down the water in one go. Afterward, she wiped her mouth with her sleeve and gave Sue Annie a thumbs up. Annie, the water tastes a little sour. Did you add lemon juice? Sue Annie blinked, her smile turning even sweeter. Yep. It's a special recipe, baby, mixed up just for everyone, as she said. Her expression didn't change one bit. I held my glass and watched as the people in the classroom drank the water one after another. Some smacked their lips, some said, yeah, it is a little sour, and others laughed. Anything Annie mixes tastes good. No one was suspicious. No one thought anything was off in their minds. Sue Annie was that innocent little baby, so there was no way she could hurt anyone, even if someone were holding a knife to your throat, as long as she had a harmless-looking face and spoke with a quivery, babyish voice. You wouldn't think she was out to get you. That was Sue Annie's weapon. Zhou Pingqi also tipped his head back and finished his drink. He drank quickly, his Adam's apple bobbing up and down a few times before the glass was empty. Afterward, he even lifted the empty cup toward Sue Annie, the corners of his mouth curved in that devoted, dog-like smile. Tasty, he said. 7. Tasty. Sulfuric acid diluted with water. Tasty. I nearly couldn't hold back a laugh, he said. down the cup and turned to me. "You didn't drink yours." He noticed me. I set down the cup, which still had more than half a cup of water left in it. I smiled at him. "I can't bear to drink it. It's the last glass of water before the college entrance exam. I want to savor it slowly." The line was so cheesy I wanted to throw up myself, but after Zhou Pingqi heard it, a soft warmth rose in his eyes. He reached out and ruffled my hair. His tone indulgent, like he was coaxing a little kitten. "You silly thing, what's so special about a glass of water? Finish it, and I'll pour you another." "Okay," I said, but I didn't drink it. That half-full cup lay quietly there, reflecting the shadow of the ceiling fan as it turned round and round. Sue Annie's cup was already empty. She turned the Hello Kitty cup upside down and shook it, then flashed the whole class a victory sign. "Baby's finished hers. What about you guys? Has anyone not finished yet?" "Finished." "Downed it. Annie's drink is too." "Good. Can I have another?" Sue Annie covered her mouth and laughed. No, this is a special blend. There's only 1 cup per person, a one-of-a-kind baby special, one of a kind. It really was one of a kind, sulfuric acid diluted with water. There wasn't a second person in the whole world who could smile while handing out something like that to the whole class. Her gaze swept across the classroom before finally settling on my cup. That half cup of water was far too noticeable, in a sea of empty cups. It stood there awkwardly like an unfinished period. "Jinjin." Sue Annie tilted her head at me, her tone laced with a petulant little complaint. "Why haven't you finished yours? I specially mixed it for everyone. Do you not like it?" She put extra emphasis on the words "do not like," dragging the ending down in pitch. Coupled with those eyes instantly brimming with mist, she looked every bit like a wronged little baby who'd been snubbed. The whole class's eyes snapped onto me at once. Someone started whispering, "What's wrong with young Jinjin? Annie went out of her way to make her a drink, and she won't even take a sip." "Yeah, what's with the holier-than-thou act? Look at Zhou Pingqi's girlfriend. She's always like this. Whatever Annie does, she won't cooperate." Zhou Pingqi was looking at me too. There was no annoyance on his face, but beneath that gentleness was a faint, subtle pressure, like an invisible hand resting on my shoulder. "Jinjin," he said gently, so gently it didn't even sound like he was urging me. "This is Annie's kindness. Just drink it. Tomorrow's the college entrance exam. Don't spoil the mood for everyone. Don't spoil the mood for everyone." In my last life, he said the same thing. When Sue Annie suggested that everyone drink the water together, when everyone raised their cups, when I was hesitating over whether to tell the truth, he said, "Don't ruin the moment." And I swallowed every bit of unease back down. This time, I wasn't swallowing it. But I wasn't going to flip the table right now either. I picked up my glass and smiled at Sue Annie. "Annie, of course I'll drink your special blend, but this water is too special. I want to save it until after the exam tomorrow. Think of it as leaving myself a little keepsake. After I finish the last test, I'll drink this blessing and wrap things up on a perfect note. What do you say?" Sue Annie's expression froze for a split second. It was only a fraction of a second, then she beamed again, cupping her face with both hands and putting on an expression so moved she looked like she was about to cry. "Jinjin, you're so romantic, baby. Never even thought of that." Okay, let's keep this glass of water until after tomorrow's exam, and then baby will drink it with you." She turned to face the whole class and clapped her hands. "You all heard that, right? Jinjin is going to keep this glass of baby's special blend until after tomorrow's exam before drinking it. This is an exclusive tradition of our class 3. No one is allowed to sneak a sip." 8. Some people laughed. Some said, "Yang Jinshin really knows how to create a sense of occasion," and others chimed in, "Then I'll keep one too." No one thought anything was off. No one asked what exactly had been added to that glass of water, because to them, it was just Annie baby's special drink, tart, like lemonade, with Sue Annie's signature sweetness and innocence. No one knew it was sulfuric acid, except me, with Sue Annie. When her gaze slid past my face, that look of hatred surfaced again, darker and fiercer than before, like a jar of aged poison. She saw that I hadn't drunk it. She saw that I had left the glass of water untouched. She saw me smile and defuse her urging. She saw me put on a flawless performance in front of everyone, pretending to cherish Annie's kindness. She understood everything. She knew it. I knew there was something in the water, but she didn't know how I knew. She didn't know I had seen her pour the water. She didn't know I knew it was sulfuric acid. She didn't know I might understand this glass of water better than she did, because in my past life, I drank it. Suddenly, hurried footsteps sounded in the hallway, not one person's footsteps, but several sets at once, a jumble of sounds overlapping, the clack of dress shoes striking the floor, the crackle of a walkie-talkie, and the faint rustle of security uniforms rubbing together. The door was pushed open. In came Vice Principal Wang, Director Chen from the Academic Affairs Office, and 2 Security guards in uniform. Bringing up the rear was Teacher Lee, whose thermos cup was gone, replaced by a deathly pale face. No one move. Vice Principal Wang raised one hand. His voice wasn't loud, but the sheer authority in it instantly silenced the entire classroom. His hand was trembling slightly, not from fear, but from anger. Everyone, put down the cups in your hands. The air in the classroom seemed to freeze. Sue Annie stood by the podium, still holding the Hello Kitty water bottle against her chest. Her expression shifted from sweet to confused, then from confused to a carefully calculated blankness. She tilted her head slightly, lips parted just a little, looking like a deer caught in headlights, harmless, innocent, and completely unaware of what had happened. Principal Wang, her voice was small and thin, with just the right amount of tremble. What happened? Vice Principal Wang didn't look at her. He turned and nodded to the security guard behind him. The security guard walked into the classroom and went straight to the case of bottled water beside the podium. He crouched down, pulled out the bottle Sue Annie had tampered with, unscrewed the cap, brought it close to his nose and sniffed it, then took a test strip from his pocket and dipped it into the bottle opening. The test strip changed color. The security guard stood up and walked over to Vice Principal Wang, saying a few words in a low voice. His voice was barely audible, but the classroom was so quiet that those two words seemed to stab into everyone's ears like needles. Sulfuric acid. The classroom exploded, screams, chairs crashing to the floor, and the sound of cups shattering all blurred together like a pot of boiling porridge. Some people clapped a hand over their mouths and gagged, some spat frantically, some slumped in their chairs as white as sheets, and some stood up only to sink back down again. Sulfuric acid. Who put sulfuric acid in it? What did we just drink? I drank it. I drank that glass of water. Lemon juice. She said it was lemon juice. I took 2 sips. 9. Lin Keek's voice was the loudest, shrill as nails scraping across glass. Her face had gone paper white, her lips were trembling, and both hands were gripping the edge of the desk so hard her knuckles turned white. She jerked her head toward Sue Annie, her eyes wide with shock. Sue Annie was still standing by the podium. Her expression flickered for a split second. That moment was so brief that no one else could have caught it, but I did. The dazed look on her face was like a thin layer of ice, with frantic calculations churning beneath it, calculating how to slip away, how to explain herself, and how to shift the blame. Her eyes darted left, then right, then left again, like a fox cornered against a wall, searching for an escape route, and then she found one. Her eyes turned red. It wasn't the kind of all-out breakdown she'd had in her past life, sobbing her heart out. This was a more advanced kind of crying, tears welling up in her eyes, threatening to fall but not quite doing so. The corners of her eyes reddened, the tip of her nose red as well, her whole face exuding a fragile, almost heartbreakingly beautiful delicacy. She didn't say a word, just looked at everyone with that expression, her lips trembling slightly, like a wronged little animal. Zhou Pingqi was the first to react the moment he heard the word sulfuric acid. His face went deathly pale, not because he was scared, at least, he didn't think it was fear. His body reacted before his mind did. His stomach lurched. His throat felt like it had been clamped shut by something, and he started retching. The moment he bent over, he braced himself on the table, his fingertips turning white. He stared at his empty cup, his pupils trembling violently. He drank it. He drank every last drop. Sue Annie didn't spare him. That realization stabbed into his mind like a needle. He suddenly looked up at Sue Annie, and in his eyes was something I had never seen on his face before. Not anger, not accusation, but a kind of blank, childlike confusion. Why, he must have been thinking, why didn't she let me off? I used to wonder about that in my last life too. Later, I figured it out. Sue Annie wasn't some innocent little baby. She was a polished, self-interested opportunist. Her kindness to Zhou Pingqi wasn't because she liked him, but because he was useful. He could take the hit for her, speak up for her, and be the first to stand out when she was being questioned. But once he was no longer useful, or when her plan needed more people's silence to cover it up, he could be sacrificed. It was that simple. Zhou Pingqi's retching grew louder and louder. His whole body curled like a bow, his forehead pressed against the edge of the table, as sour liquid rose in his stomach, mixed with the taste of that glass of lemon juice. Tears of physiological distress welled up at the corners of his eyes, and no one knew whether they were from stomach pain or from something else. Pingqi, Lin Kiki called out to him, "Are you okay?" Zhou Pingqi waved a hand but couldn't say a word. He still didn't know this was only the beginning. Diluted sulfuric acid wouldn't burn through your esophagus right away, but that searing sensation would spread little by little, crawling down from your throat like a snake slowly coiling around your insides. I'd experienced that feeling in my past life. It wasn't intense, but it was relentless, like a red-hot wire left pressed against your throat. Every breath you exhaled scorching hot. He would experience that feeling every second, every breath. Zhou Pingqi, you drank it? Someone asked in shock. Aren't you Annie's best friend? How could she even make you? 10. The question trailed off, but everyone understood. Zhou Pingqi straightened up and wiped the corner of his mouth with the back of his hand, his expression complicated. Anger, shock, betrayal. and a faint trace of something he was desperately trying to suppress. Doubt. He was doubting Sue Annie, but the moment that thought surfaced, he crushed it himself, because he couldn't doubt her. The moment he did, everything he had stood by would collapse. His 3 years of favoritism, every time he'd spoken up for her, every time he'd put Sue Annie first in front of his girlfriend. If Sue Annie really wanted to hurt him, then he was nothing but a complete joke. So he couldn't accept that as the truth. He would find another explanation. He would tell himself that Sue Annie didn't mean it, that she had simply made a mistake, or that the bottle really had been given to her by her mother and she knew nothing about it. He needed a lie to keep his world from collapsing, and the thing he was best at was making up lies for Sue Annie. Sure enough, Zhou Pingqi took a deep breath, turned to face Vice Principal Wang, and said in a hoarse but resolute voice, "Principal Wang, there must be some misunderstanding here. Annie isn't that kind of person." There it was again. He had said it in his last life, and he was saying it again. In this one, the difference was, last time he said it, his cup was clean. This time, his throat was being scorched bit by sulfuric acid, and he could still say something like, "Annie isn't that kind of person." I almost wanted to applaud him. I suppose that's the power of love. Vice Principal One glanced at him, and there was something unreadable in that look, probably pity. Pity for a young man who had been blinded and still had no idea whether there was any malice or not. Isn't something you can determine by words alone, Vice Principal Wang said, turning to the class. "Everyone, keep the water in your cups. Special testing staff will come later to collect samples. Don't panic for now. The concentration isn't high, and anyone who only drank a little won't be in any immediate danger, but you still need to go to the hospital for a checkup." Hospital checkup. It was the same in my previous life. The whole class was taken to the hospital for gastric lavage, and endoscopy, and blood tests. After a whole day of chaos, the final result was that everyone was basically fine, except that I ended up with a scar on my hand from the sulfuric acid burn. This time around, Zhou Pingqi was going too. I wonder whether, when he's lying on the endoscopy table with a tube shoved down his throat, he'll still think Sue Annie is an innocent little baby. Vice Principal Wang pulled out his phone and started making calls. From what I could hear, he was contacting the hospital and the police. Director Chen was keeping order, telling everyone to return to their seats and not move around. 2 security guards stood at the door, watching everything in the classroom with grim expressions. Sue Annie was taken away by Teacher Li. As she walked out of the classroom, she looked back once. Her gaze swept over everyone, Lin Kiki, Zhou Pingqi, me, and finally settled on me. Her expression changed. No longer the pitiful victim. No longer the innocent little baby. In those eyes churned something I had seen countless times before: hatred, calculation, and a trace of emotion I had never seen in my previous life. Jealousy. She was jealous of me. Well, that's a surprise. 11. In my last life, I only knew she hated me for snitching on her, but I never once thought it was because she was jealous. After all, she was the one everyone had wrapped up in cotton wool. She had Zhou Pingqi's favoritism, the whole class's adoration, a face everyone loved at first sight, and the unlimited immunity that came with her baby persona. She had everything. What could she possibly be jealous of me for? But in this life, she saw something different in my eyes. Not fear, not guilt, not flattery. It was a kind of contempt she had never seen on my face before. That contempt terrified her, because it meant that in my eyes, she was no longer the baby who needed to be cherished and coddled. She was just a ridiculous clown. After Sue Annie was taken away, the atmosphere in the classroom became even more unsettling. Some people were crying, some were calling their parents, some were desperately chugging water to dilute the poison in their stomachs, and some sat slumped over their desks without moving, their faces buried in their arms. Lin Kiki bent over the sink and threw up 3 times. By the end, it was nothing but dry heaving, even bile coming up, all while cursing between wretches. "You nasty bitch, Sue Annie, ugh, what the hell did you put in this cup, ugh." She was the loudest one cursing, but half an hour ago, she was one of Sue Annie's most loyal sycophants. Before Sue Annie was taken away, she was still saying, "Annie didn't mean it, and she's just a kid who doesn't know any better." People can change sides faster than flipping a page, not because she'd had a moral awakening, but because that cup of water had gone down her own throat. When the blade cuts someone else, anyone can be a saint. Only when it cuts you do you know what pain is. Zhou Pingqi sat in his seat, one hand pressed to his stomach, the other gripping an empty cup, his knuckles bone-white. His face was as pale as paper, and a fine sweat had formed on his forehead. His expression was calm, but beneath that calm was too much being held down, like a volcano ready to erupt at any moment. Every so often, he glanced at me out of the corner of his eye. He was waiting for me to say something, waiting for the Yang Jinjin who loved him madly in his imagination to rush over, hold him, ask if he was in pain, say, "I'll take you to The hospital, say, "It's okay, I'm here." I used to do exactly that back then. Even the slightest frown from him would break my heart for ages, but now, I was just sitting in my seat, holding that half glass of water, quietly looking out the window. The sunlight was bright, the sky was blue, someone was running on the track in the distance, and everything was peaceful. Jinjin, he finally spoke. I turned my head to look at him. His lips were a little dry, and there was something in his eyes I couldn't quite make out. It wasn't anger, and it wasn't accusation. It was more like a cautious test. He had probably already sensed that something was off. His girlfriend was indifferent while he was being burned by acid, and that was wrong. But he still hadn't figured out exactly what was wrong, because in his mind, Yang Jinjin loved him so deeply she would never not care about him. Are you okay? He asked. Even now, he was still asking whether I was okay. I almost laughed. I'm fine, I said. 12. He didn't drink from my cup, he was drinking from his own glass. This was fate's dark joke. In his past life, Su Annie let him off. In this one, she didn't, and the reason he wasn't spared had nothing to do with me. It was simply because Su Annie had become even more ruthless, but he wouldn't see it that way. He was already starting to hate me. I could see the seed of that hatred in his eyes, tiny, delicate, like a blade of grass just breaking through spring soil, still unnoticed by anyone. But it would grow, spread, and eventually crawl over his entire heart, because people always need someone to hate. Hating Su Annie was too painful, because hating her meant admitting you were a joke. Hating the classmates who joined in and cursed her was too troublesome, because there were too many of them. Hating yourself was too cruel, because you were the one who deserved it most. So hate me. Hating Yang Jinjin was the easiest, safest, and least psychologically burdensome choice, because I was his girlfriend, because I was supposed to shield him from every misfortune. And because I failed to do that, it was all my fault. The script from my past life wouldn't change even a single word in this one. Sirens sounded in the hallway, growing louder as they drew nearer. 1 ambulance, 2, 3, like a long zipper, tearing open the morning in this small county town. Teacher Lee, the homeroom teacher, hurried into the classroom, his face even paler than before. His lips trembled twice, and his voice sounded unsteady. "Everyone, pack up and come with me. There are ambulances at the school gate. We'll go to the hospital in groups for checks." Someone asked, "Teacher Lee, will we die?" Teacher Lee's expression froze for a moment, then he forced out a smile uglier than crying. "No, the test results show the concentration is very low, and there's no risk to life, but you still need to go to the hospital for a thorough examination to make sure everything is safe." They wouldn't die. No one died in my last life either, but someone did take their own life in my last life. The night Su Annie slit her wrists, I heard crying at the far end of the hallway in the dorm. It wasn't Su Annie crying, but her roommate. By the time they found her, blood had already run from the edge of the bed to the floor, staining those pink bunny slippers a dark red. The ambulance came, but they couldn't save her, and then everyone blamed me. This time, the script was different. I didn't call the police, and I wasn't the one who exposed it. The surveillance footage captured her pouring water from start to finish. Security found the sulfuric acid, and the vice principal called the police. None of it had anything to do with me. I was just an innocent classmate who knew nothing, but I know they'll still blame me, because I'm Yang Jinjin, because in everyone else's story, I was born to be the one who takes the fall. 13. When Zhou Pingqi stood up, he staggered and only steadied himself with a hand on the edge of the table. His face was awful to look at, his lips pale, the veins at his temples bulging faintly. The acid was working its way through his esophagus, burning bit by bit, like a red-hot wire slowly being forced downward. I remembered how, in my past life, I lay beside the sink in the chemistry lab while Zhou Pingqi tipped the bottle toward my mouth. His expression as gentle as if he were pouring a cup of tea. He said, "Taste it yourself and see whether it really kills, and, if you die, then go keep her company." By then, my throat had already been burned to a pulp, and I couldn't make a sound. If I could have spoken, I would have asked him one thing. "When you feel sorry for her, have you ever thought that I hurt too?" I don't need to ask now, because I already know the answer. He never thought about it. Just like when Su Annie poured sulfuric acid into the whole class's cups, she never thought anyone would be hurt. They were the same kind of people, born to suit each other. One pours poison into a cup, the other forces it down someone else's throat. One plays innocent, the other plays righteous. They fit together perfectly. Zhou Pingqi walked over to me, looked down at my water cup, then looked at me. "You didn't drink it." His voice was a little hoarse. "No," I said. His brows drew together, deeply, as if he were trying to solve a riddle he couldn't crack. The whole class had drunk it. Su Annie had drunk it. He had drunk it. Everyone had drunk it. So why hadn't I? He opened his mouth, wanting to ask something, but in the end, he didn't. say a word. I didn't explain it to him. I picked up that half cup of water and carefully tucked it into the side pocket of my backpack, then zipped it shut. I did it very slowly, very carefully, as if I were handling something precious. Zhou Pingqi watched my movements, his expression growing more and more complicated. Jinjin, he finally asked, what exactly was in that glass of water? I raised my head and looked into his eyes. There was confusion in those eyes, unease, and a hint of fear just beginning to take root. Not fear of the sulfuric acid, he had already drunk it, so fear no longer mattered. It was a deeper fear, fear of the unknown, fear that he had suddenly realized he had never truly known me at all. I smiled at him. That smile was faint and fleeting, like a breeze skimming across a lake, vanishing before even a ripple could spread. Nothing, I said. I just couldn't bear to drink it. After Su Annie was taken away, the atmosphere in the classroom turned oppressively tense. It was a strange mood, not sorrow, not anger, but a collective daze. Everyone's mind was working frantically, trying to come up with an explanation for what had just happened that would make them feel better. Su Annie didn't do it on purpose. The bottle her mother gave her, she thought it was disinfectant. She was just too innocent and got used by someone. The sulfuric acid must have been secretly swapped out of the lab by someone, and Annie knew nothing about it. Theories like these were more absurd, but every single one of them had gone through the minds of the students in class 3 at least 3 times, because admitting that Su Annie did it on purpose would be the same as admitting you were a fool, being fooled for 3 years by someone who called you baby in that sweet, syrupy voice every day, then drinking the sulfuric acid she handed you and still smiling as you said, "It's good." The truth was too painful. It hurt so much that no one wanted to face it, so they were avoiding it by hating me. 14. Yang Jinjin, why didn't you stop everyone just now? The first to lash out was Lin Kiki. She had already finished throwing up, but what came up wasn't food. It was mucus streaked with blood. Her doll-like face was filled with malice, and there was still a trace of dark red residue at the corner of her mouth that she hadn't wiped away. Her eyes were red. Whether from vomiting too hard or from wanting to cry, no one knew, but there was not a hint of fragility in her tone, only aggression. I looked up at her. Why should I stop everyone? You clearly saw Annie pouring something out. Lin Keek's voice rose. You were sitting there pretending to sleep. You think I didn't know? You saw everything. Why didn't you say anything? The classroom fell silent. All eyes turned on me like needles. I swept the room and saw a sea of familiar faces, some nodding, some frowning, some looking at me as if to say, I knew it. They needed a scapegoat, and I gave them one. I saw her pouring something, I said, standing up and meeting Lin Keek's gaze head-on, but I didn't know what she was pouring. I thought she was adding it to her own drink, just like she said. Lin Keek's lips trembled. Why, you did it on purpose. You've never gotten along with our Annie. You were dying for something bad to happen to her. I've never gotten along with her. I tilted my head. I helped her every time she asked, gave her a gift for her birthday, and visited her when she was sick. Which eye of yours saw me not getting along with her? Lin Kiki was left speechless, because she couldn't find any proof, because the truth was, in her past life, Yang Jinjin may not have liked Su Annie's behavior, but she had never shown it. She kept it in for 3 years, right up until her death. All right, enough, stop arguing. Someone shouted from the back. What's the point of arguing about this now? Get her checked first and see what's going on. Exactly. Yang Jinjin didn't do anything wrong. She's not a prophet. How was she supposed to? No, it was sulfuric acid. Someone was speaking up for me. It wasn't because they believed me, but because the situation was still unclear. Once the police expose Su Annie's disinfectant bottle story for the lie it is, once everyone is forced to face that brutal truth, the very people who spoke up for me will be the first to turn on me. That's human nature for you. Zhou Pingqi had said nothing the whole time. He sat in his seat, one hand pressed hard against his stomach, the other clutching an empty cup, his knuckles white. His face was beyond pale now. It had taken on a sickly, washed-out gray, like a wall battered by rain for far too long. His lips were trembling, not from the cold, but from the pain. The sulfuric acid in that cup was already working its way through his esophagus. It wasn't the kind of mild burn I had suffered in my past life, but a real, searing pain that burned through the mucous membrane inch by inch. Su Annie had gone harder this time than she had before. I saw it clearly while pretending to doze. She had poured at least twice as much into the cup as she had last time. I don't know why she used more. Maybe she wanted it to be more fun, or maybe she sensed something and wanted to make sure everyone would remember it. Whatever the reason, the result was the same. 15. Zhou Pingqi had drunk the entire cup. Every breath he took now felt like swallowing shards of glass. The burning in his throat was not a single red-hot wire, but a whole handful of red-hot nails, driving from his throat all the way down to his stomach, each one seeping scalding poison. He pressed his forehead against the edge of the table, cold sweat streaming down from his temples and dripping onto the tabletop, pooling into a small puddle. He didn't make a sound, because he couldn't. His throat was already swelling, his vocal cords red and raw from sulfuric acid. And every attempt to speak felt like sanding his own windpipe with sandpaper, but more importantly, he couldn't show pain at a time like this. Pain meant weakness, and weakness meant he was no longer the knight who protected the princess. He was still holding on for whom? For Sue Annie, who was already gone, for the classmates who were still secretly watching him out of the corners of their eyes, for himself watching him. I suddenly remembered a detail from my last life. In my last life, after Sue Annie was caught, Zhou Pingqi came to see me. He didn't yell at me, didn't hit me, and didn't even say anything harsh. He just stood in front of me and said one thing in a very calm voice. Jinjin, do you know why Annie did this? Because she felt this world had treated her badly. She just wanted everyone else to feel her pain too. I froze at the time, not because those words made any sense, but because they were absurd beyond belief. Someone the whole class had practically been holding in the palm of their hand thought the world had been unfair to her. Someone who had everything thought she was the victim. She poured sulfuric acid into someone else's cup not because she was evil, but because she was in pain. The expression on Zhou Pingqi's face was serious when he said this. He really believed Sue Annie was the victim. Now he was a victim too. The cup of sulfuric acid was burning through his esophagus, and he would feel that searing pain all the way from his throat down to his stomach, every breath like swallowing fire. He would go to the hospital and find that his esophagus had been burned beyond recognition. He would suffer, and then, would he think Sue Annie was a victim too? I'd guess so, because hating Sue Annie was too painful. To admit that the goddess he had loved for 3 years was a madwoman who had deliberately poisoned someone, to admit that she had treated him like a disposable pawn, this truth burned even more than sulfuric acid, so he wouldn't admit it. He would find 10,000 reasons to forgive her, and then transfer all his hatred onto someone else. That person was, of course, me. Ugh, a muffled groan came from the corner. I turned and saw Zhao Siyu bend over, one hand braced on the desk and the other covering her mouth. Her face was bowed so low I couldn't see it clearly, but a drop of dark red liquid seeped through her fingers and fell onto her white school uniform skirt. Blood, not the thin trickle that seeps from the corner of the mouth, real blood, a lot of it, surging up from her throat. Zhao Siyu was the kind of girl who blended into the background in class, average grades, quiet personality, never involved in any cliques. In my previous life, she drank that glass of water, went to the hospital to have her stomach pumped, and came back without scolding me or speaking up for me. She only looked at me in silence, and there was something in that look that I couldn't quite put into words. Not sympathy, not anger, more like exhaustion. In this life, she drank even more sulfuric acid. 16. Now the blood in her mouth was pouring out like a broken dam, dripping down her chin onto the desk and splattering into dark red blossoms. The girl beside her screamed and jumped back, knocking a chair over with a harsh crash. Zhao Siyu lurched forward, her forehead striking the edge of the desk with a dull thud, and then her body began to slide downward like a sack of cement tipped on its side. Someone was shouting, "Call a doctor." Someone else was yelling, "An ambulance." Another person crouched down to help her, but the moment their hand touched her shoulder, they jerked it back, because in that instant Zhao Siyu raised her head, and everyone saw her face. Her lips were gone, not as an exaggeration, but literally, physically gone. When the sulfuric acid was poured into her mouth, the first thing it hit was her lips. Her lower lip looked like wax scorched by fire, covered in a gray-white layer of necrotic tissue, blood seeping from the edges, a split running through the center to reveal the bright red flesh underneath. Her eyes were wide open, her pupils filled with fear. That fear couldn't be summed up by the words "I'm scared." It was something more primal, more animalistic, a gut-level instinct for death. Her body was telling her, "You've been poisoned, you're badly injured, you might die." Her body wasn't lying. I only learned later that in this life, Sue Annie had poured sulfuric acid into the cup at a concentration more than twice as strong as before. At some point, she must have snapped and decided, if we're going to play, let's play big. Or maybe she had always intended to make everyone pay, including Zhou Pingqi. But at that moment, no one in the classroom knew any of that. All they knew was, someone was vomiting blood, someone's mouth had been burned raw, and someone was thrashing on the floor. The whole classroom was like a pot of boiling porridge, with screams, cries, and retching all mixed together. The air was thick with the sour stench of acid and the smell of blood. Some people were on the phone, their shaking fingers unable to punch in the right number, screaming into the receiver, "Come quick! Someone help." Others were slumped in their chairs, faces turning blue, lips turning purple, eyes half open, as if struggling on the edge of unconsciousness. Lin Kiki stood next to Zhao Siyu, her face as white as paper. She had vomited blood too, but not nearly as much as Zhao Siyu. A streak of dark red blood clung to the corner of her mouth, making her doll-like face look eerie beyond words, like a dirty doll. "Young Jinjin." She suddenly screamed, her voice so sharp it seemed about to pierce Everyone's eardrums. Why didn't you drink it? Why didn't you drink that glass of water? Those words fell like a pebble into a lake, sending ripples spreading outward in expanding circles. Everyone's eyes turned to me. Sunho, sitting on my left, was clutching his throat and staring at me with bloodshot eyes. The look on his face was no longer anger. It was hatred, naked, unmasked hatred. He had just thrown up 3 times. And the 3rd time, it was all blood clots, dark red, like shattered jelly. His girlfriend, Chinseki, was crying beside him, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. Between sobs, she kept wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth with tissues, and soon the tissues were stained red. Yeah, Yang Jinjin, everyone in the class drank it except you. Chinseki looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. Do you know something? She definitely knows. Lin Keek's voice turned even shriller. She's been pretending to be asleep the whole time. She saw Annie pouring something in. She knows everything, and she just won't tell us. Yang Jinjin, how can you be so vicious? You watched us drink sulfuric acid and didn't say a word. Are you even human? The insults surged toward me like a tide, wave after wave, dense as a summer downpour. I stood in the middle of all those voices, my expression as calm as a still lake. They weren't wrong. I did know. I really did watch them drink it. I really didn't say a single word. 17, but I felt no guilt, no panic, and not the slightest trace of remorse, because in my last life, they did the same thing to me, watched as sulfuric acid was poured into my mouth. Not one of them spoke, not one reached out, not one called for it to stop. When Zhou Pingqi twisted off the cap, Sunho held down my head, Chinseki stood guard at the door, and Lin Keeki blocked anyone who might come down the hallway. They weren't bystanders, they were accomplices. Now every one of them has drunk that cup of sulfuric acid, and every one of them is enduring the pain I once suffered in my last life. Fair? No, it isn't. What I went through back then was far worse than what they're enduring now, not because the acid was stronger, but because it was poured into me by the person I loved. But this time around, I'm not going to dwell on whether it's fair or not. This time, I'll do only one thing and watch. That's enough. Zhou Pingqi's voice came from the corner, hoarse and barely audible, but the commanding tone in it made everyone fall silent. He braced himself on the table and slowly got to his feet, moving so slowly he looked like an 80-year-old man. His face was ghastly pale, his eye sockets deeply sunken, and his lips were covered in cracked streaks of blood. It took him about 10 seconds to straighten himself up, and then he walked step by step toward me, standing between me and those people. Don't say another word. His voice sounded like sandpaper scraping across glass. Every word tinged with blood. Jinjin did nothing wrong. I looked at his back as he stood in front of me. The back of his school uniform was soaked through, and I couldn't tell whether it was sweat or blood. His shoulders were trembling faintly, not from the cold, but from the pain. His esophagus was being burned through inch by sulfuric acid. Every breath felt like swallowing fire, but he still stepped in front of me. It was such a touching scene. If I didn't know how he had treated me in my previous life, I would have been moved to tears, but I remember the look on his face when he pointed the bottle at my mouth, gentle, calm, even with a hint of pity, as if he were doing something perfectly justified, as if he were carrying out justice on heaven's behalf. Penji, you're protecting her. Lin Keek's voice was full of disbelief. She watched us drink sulfuric acid. You got burned too? Don't you hate her? Zhou Pingqi said nothing. His shoulders were shaking even harder now, one hand braced on the table beside him, his knuckles bone-white. I don't hate her, he said. In that moment he said those words. Did he even believe them himself? I don't know, but I do know Lin Keeki didn't believe it. Sunho didn't believe it. Chinseki didn't believe it. Not a single person in this classroom believed it, because they needed someone to hate, and that person, from beginning to end, was me. Hasty footsteps echoed in the hallway. Not the footsteps of one person, but several, a jumble of sounds overlapping one another. The click of dress shoes against the floor, the rumble of a stretcher's wheels over the tiles, the crackling hiss of a walkie-talkie. The door was pushed open. It wasn't one person, but a group. Doctors in white coats, police officers in dark blue uniforms, and staff in security uniforms rushed in all at once, 7 or 8 of them, blocking the classroom doorway completely. The doctor in front was a woman in her 40s with short hair, her expression so stern she looked like a statue, her gaze swept across the classroom, and the moment she saw Zhao Siyu, her pupils contracted sharply. Send this one first, she said, pointing at Zhao Siyu, her voice tight with urgency. Severe burns. Get her on a stretcher now. 2 paramedics rushed over and lifted Zhao Siyu off the floor. Her school uniform skirt was soaked in blood, and the skin around her mouth had turned pitch black. She was limp as a rag doll as they carried her out. Her eyes were still open, staring straight up at the ceiling, her pupils unfocused. No one knew if she was still conscious. Who else drank it? The doctor asked the class, turning around, her voice urgent. I drank it. I did too. I had a cup. I only took 2 sips. The voices surged in from all directions, rising and falling like a bizarre symphony. Every face was written with fear, the kind of fear that says, my body is burning from the inside, and there's nothing I can do. The doctor's expression darkened. She strode up to Lin Kiki, grabbed her chin, and pried open her mouth for a look. The inside of Lin Kiki's mouth was a shocking red, her tongue was covered in white, ulcerated spots, and deep in her throat, swollen mucosa could be seen trembling faintly, severe burn, sent her. The doctor let go and turned to the next person. When Sun Hao had his mouth pried open, he gagged, and a wave of sour fluid mixed with blood came up, splattering onto the doctor's white coat sleeve. She didn't dodge it, she just frowned, glanced down the back of his throat, then shook her head. This one's worse, straight to ICU, prep him, ICU, intensive care unit. Those 3 words exploded in the classroom like a bomb, and everyone's faces changed. A moment ago, some people were still forcing a brave face, saying things like he should be fine, right, or maybe it just burns a little. No one said another word. ICU isn't a place to joke about. Everyone knew exactly what it meant to end up there. Doctor, am I going to die? It was Chinsiki who asked that question. She was leaning against Sun Hao, her tears long dried up, her eyes red as a rabbit's, the blood on her lips already congealed into a dark red scab. The doctor glanced at her but didn't answer. That silence itself was the answer. People in the classroom were taken out in batches. There weren't enough stretchers, so some were helped out, some were carried out on someone's back, and some, while walking, suddenly bent over, bracing themselves against the wall as they retched up mouthfuls of bloody water. The hallway was filled with crying and coughing, mingling together like a dirge for the dead. Zhou Pengqi was in the last group to leave. He had stayed beside me the whole time and hadn't gotten on a stretcher first. His complexion was beyond pale now. It was a nearly translucent ash white, as if all the blood in his body had been drained out. His lips were split in several places, and with every breath, fresh beads of blood seeped out. Xinjin. He turned and looked at me, his voice as faint as a wisp of smoke. Are you really okay? I'm fine, I said. I didn't drink it. Of course I'm fine. Zhou Pengqi looked at me, and there was something deeply complicated in his eyes. Not relief, not gratitude, more like resentment. Resentment over why everyone in the class drank it, but I didn't. Resentment over why the goddess he'd held on a pedestal had ruined him like this, while his girlfriend came through unscathed. Resentment over why fate spared me at the very last moment, but wouldn't spare him. He knew that thought was wrong, but he couldn't help it. People are like that. When things go wrong for you and you see someone else perfectly fine, a dark, unspeakable feeling starts to creep in. Why should they be okay? Why are you fine? 19. Zhou Pengqi, let's go. The doctor called from the doorway. He gave me one last look, then turned and followed the stretcher team out of the classroom. His back was hunched, like a bamboo stalk bent under pressure, and each step was painfully slow, as if he were treading on shattered glass. The classroom was finally empty. I was the only one left. Sunlight poured in through the window, falling across the chaos of desks and the floor. There were bloodstains on the tabletops, vomit, overturned water cups, scattered textbooks, and test papers. The air was thick with a sharp, sour smell mixed with the rusty tang of blood. I stood amid those traces, looking down at the half cup of water in my hand. The water's surface was as still as a mirror, reflecting my eyes. Those eyes were different from the ones I had in my previous life. Back then, they were full of grievance and confusion. Why did you kill me even after I saved you? In this life, there were only 2 words in my eyes: serves you right. I put the cup back into the side pocket of my backpack, zipped it up, slung it over my shoulder, and walked out of the classroom. The hallway was eerily quiet. Everyone had been taken to the hospital. My footsteps echoed alone in the stairwell, one after another, like a heartbeat. When I reached the first floor, my phone vibrated. It was a message in the class group chat. I opened it and saw a voice message from Lin Kiki. When I played it, her voice came through the phone, no longer sharp and aggressive like before, but hoarse and choked with tears, as if a wad of cotton had been stuffed in her throat. My throat hurt so much. The doctor said my esophagus is burned and I need to stay in the hospital for observation. I probably won't be able to take tomorrow's college entrance exam. Why is Yang Jinjin fine? Why does she get to be okay? The voice message cut off there. It wasn't that she didn't want to speak anymore. She couldn't speak at all. Her throat had swollen so badly that she couldn't make a sound. I didn't answer and shoved the phone back into my pocket. Tomorrow's college entrance exam. In my previous life, I didn't even get to take it because they ruined me. In this life, every single one of them had swallowed that cup of sulfuric acid, and every one of them would be lying in a hospital bed tomorrow, with tubes down their throats and their stomachs churning. No one would be able to take tomorrow's college entrance exam, except me. The entire school building was empty, with only the wind passing through the hallways, lifting the exam papers and scraps of paper off the floor. I stood in front of the bulletin board in the lobby on the first floor, looking at the exam room layout posted there, red markings, black print, and rows of unfamiliar admission numbers. Tomorrow, I'll be sitting here, seated in one of the desks in this exam room, pen in hand, finishing those 4 test papers, and then leaving this place, leaving Su Annie, leaving Zhou Pengqi, leaving Lin Kiki, Sun Hao, and Shinseki, leaving everyone in this classroom, go somewhere no one knows me, and start over. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Joe Pingchi, not a voice message, but a text. He typed a line, deleted it, typed again, and from the typing indicator. It was clear he'd hesitated for a long time. Jinjin, you have to do your best on the exam tomorrow. I stared at those words for 3 seconds, then I typed 2 words and sent them. I will. 20. After sending that message, I looked up at the blinding sky outside the lobby. The early summer sky was an impossible blue, cloudless, like a huge, spotless mirror. In the distance, someone was running on the track, circling the red lanes over and over again, some junior from the athletic training team. Unaware of everything happening inside the teaching building, tomorrow will be a beautiful day, perfect for an exam, perfect for revenge, perfect for watching the people who killed me in my previous life lying in hospital beds, listening to the broadcast in the hallway announce, the college entrance exam is about to begin, while all they have at hand are 4 lines and the leads of heart monitors. In my last life, not a single one of them pitied me. In this life, I won't feel sorry for any one of them either. When I walked out of the school gate, the security guard glanced at me, as if he wanted to say something but stopped himself. He probably already knew what had happened that morning. The whole building had been surrounded by ambulances, so there was no way he couldn't know. Girl, are you all right? He asked. I'm fine. I smiled at him. The college entrance exam is tomorrow, so I'm heading back to study. The security guard nodded and watched my figure disappear around the corner of the street. As I walked home, the half cup of water in my backpack lay quietly in the side pocket, swaying gently with my steps. The sunlight was lovely, the breeze was soft, and the sycamore trees by the roadside cast dappled shadows. Everything felt just right. My phone vibrated one last time. It was a message Lin Kiki had posted in the class group chat. It was only 1 sentence, but every word in it seemed to tremble. The doctor said my esophagus was burned. I definitely can't take the exam tomorrow. 3 years. I waited 3 years. Yang Jinjin, are you satisfied now? This time, I replied, take good care of your injury. By the time I got home, my mom was simmering soup in the kitchen. The smell of pork rib and lotus root soup drifted out from the kitchen, mixed with the warm, spicy aroma of ginger, making the whole house feel cozy. Hearing the door open, she poked her head out of the kitchen, an apron damp with water spots, a ladle still in her hand. You're back. How was school today? She asked it casually, the way every parent of a senior in the final day before the college entrance exam would. She had no idea what had happened at school today, no idea about sulfuric acid, no idea about the ambulance, no idea that her daughter had just walked away unscathed from a carefully planned poisoning. Pretty good, I said. I put my backpack in the entryway, changed into my slippers, and walked into the kitchen. The soup in the pot was bubbling away, and the smell of pork ribs kept drifting into my nose. I stood behind my mom, looking at her busy back, and suddenly felt my eyes sting. In my last life, my mom only learned the truth after I died. When the police called her, she was at work. The voice on the other end asked, are you a family member of Yang Jinjin? And her first thought was that I'd been in a car accident. She rode her electric bike from the factory to the hospital, running 3 red lights along the way. By the time she got there, I was already on the operating table. She never got to see me one last time. Later, her coworker told me that my mom didn't shed a single tear at the funeral. She just stood there in the memorial hall, looking at my photo, motionless for a whole afternoon. On the way home, she collapsed and spent half a month in the hospital. By the time she was discharged, half her hair had turned white. This time around, I would never let her go through that again. 21. Mom, I called out. Tomorrow is the college entrance exam. Take me to the test center. My mom turned around and looked at me, stunned for a moment. She probably hadn't expected me to ask her to take me. In my previous life, Yang Jinjin had always carried everything on her own and never let her family worry. On the morning of the college entrance exam, she rode to the test center alone on her bicycle, and even breakfast was something she bought on the way. Okay, she said, her eyes suddenly turning red. Mom will take you. I nodded and turned back to my room. The moment I closed the door, my tears finally fell, but not a sound came out. I couldn't let her hear me. After I finished crying, I washed my face, sat down at my desk, took that half cup of water out of my backpack, and placed it under the desk lamp. The warm yellow light shone through the glass, casting a soft glow over the surface of the water. It looked utterly ordinary, no different from any other cup of water, but it wasn't ordinary at all. It was the biggest trump card in my hand, the most important bargaining chip in the game ahead. I didn't know how much sulfuric acid Sue Annie had put in it, or how high the concentration was, or what would happen if someone drank it. I hadn't sent it for testing, and I didn't need to know, because this cup of water wasn't meant to be drunk. It's there to be used as proof, to prove that Sun Annie poured something into the cup, to prove that her so-called disinfectant was a lie from the very beginning, to prove that the innocent little baby everyone talked About was actually a deliberately poisoning criminal, but it's not time yet. I'll wait until everyone pins their hopes on me, until they're begging me through tears to testify, until son Annie kneels in front of me and says she was just kidding. Then I'll set the cup on the table, look at everyone's faces, and slowly say, "This is the sulfuric acid son Annie poured, that's what you drank." I kept one cup because I knew all along. I'll watch their expressions go from hope to despair, from pleading to rage, and from rage to terror. It would be quite a sight. I carefully put the water bottle back into the side pocket of my backpack, zip it up, then open my math mistake notebook and start reviewing. Tomorrow is the math exam. In my last life, I lost far too many points on math tests, not because I couldn't solve the problems, but because my head was full of the way Sue Annie looked back at me when they took her away. That hatred made it impossible for me to concentrate in the exam room. Even the simplest multiple-choice questions had to be read 3 times before I could make sense of them. This time, that won't happen. This time, my mind has nothing but the problems. I went through them one by one. Formulas, theorems, solution steps, everything flowed through my mind like water. My fingers flew across the scratch paper as I wrote, and I didn't have to hesitate on a single problem. The answers were as clear as if they'd been carved into my bones. It's not because I'm a genius. It's because I've already studied all of this for 2 lifetimes. By the time I reached the 3rd sheet of scratch paper, my phone vibrated. Zhou Pingqi. I didn't answer. He called 3 more times, and I still didn't pick up. Then he sent me a message, long, like it had taken him about 5 minutes to type. I set down my pen, picked up my phone, and glanced at it. Xinxin, I'm in the hospital. The doctor said my esophagus is severely burned, so I definitely won't be able to take the college entrance exam tomorrow. I've thought a lot and wanted to talk to you. Why were you ignoring me today? Did I do something wrong? If I did, tell me and I'll change. Xinxin, you're the most important person in my life. I don't want to lose you. 22, the most important person. He said the same thing in my previous life too, back before Sue Annie appeared, before everything went wrong. He kept my face, looked into my eyes, and said very seriously, Yang Xinxin, you're the most important person in my life. I believed him. I spent 3 years turning myself into the person he wanted me to be. He didn't like me talking to other boys, so I stopped. He didn't like me wearing skirts, so I stopped wearing them. He said Sue Annie was cute and that I should be friends with her, so I became her friend. I slowly wore away my edges and forced myself into the mold he had drawn for me, thinking that would win his love. What did it get me? Sulfuric acid. I flipped my phone face down on the desk and kept working on the problems. The sky outside the window was slowly growing dark. My mom knocked on the door and came in carrying a bowl of soup. She set it down on the corner of the desk, glanced at my open notebook of wrong answers, then at the phone lying face down, and moved her lips as if to ask something, but didn't. Get to bed early, she said. You'll need to be sharp tomorrow. Okay. When she reached the door, I suddenly called out to her, Mom. Yes. Do you trust me? She turned around and looked at me, her eyes carrying something hard to put into words. Not doubt, not confusion, but a deep, heavy tenderness. It was the kind of look only a mother gives her daughter. She didn't know what had happened, but she knew something had happened. I do, she said. No matter what happens, Mom trusts you. The door closed. I lowered my head and kept working on the problems that night. I studied until 1 in the morning, going over every mistake I'd made. After I got into bed, I stared at the ceiling for a long time, replaying tomorrow's plan over and over in my head like a movie. Every detail, every step, every place where something could possibly go wrong. I had to make sure everything was foolproof. At 6 the next morning, the alarm went off. I got up, washed up, put on my school uniform, sealed the half cup of water with plastic wrap, tucked it into the innermost pocket of my backpack, and wrapped it in my clothes. My mom was already in the kitchen, frying 2 eggs, warming up milk, and cutting up a plate of fruit. Eat more, she said, sliding the plate toward me. The exam takes a lot out of you. I ate a lot, and I finished everything, because I needed strength, energy, and to be in my best condition. Today was the day I'd been waiting for through 2 college entrance exams, and I wasn't going to let anyone or anything affect me. When I left the house, my mom tipped me there on her electric bike on a June morning. The breeze against my face felt cool and refreshing. Pink mimosa blossoms were blooming all along the roadside, and the air carried a faint floral fragrance. I sat on the back of the e-bike with my arms around my mom's waist, my chin resting on her shoulder, watching the streets slowly recede behind us. Nervous? She asked. Not at all. Mom will pick you up after the exam. Okay. The exam was being held at one middle school, not ours. The school gate was crowded with parents and students. Some were hugging, some were crying, some were doing one last review of their study materials, and some were crouched by the roadside eating. Steamed buns, traffic police in uniform were keeping order, and red cordons kept the crowd apart. Over and over, the loudspeaker played, "Please line up to enter the exam hall." I took my admission ticket and pencil case from my mom. Behind me, she called out, "Shinshin." I turned back to look at her. Sunlight fell on her face. There were tears in her eyes, but they didn't fall. She smiled at me and gave me a thumbs up. "You can do this." 23. I nodded and turned to walk into the exam hall. When I found my seat, I first put my backpack away, then reached into the innermost compartment and took out that half cup of water to make sure it was intact. I set the cup on the corner of the desk, where sunlight hit it and cast a small patch of reflected light. The proctor was a middle-aged woman wearing glasses. She glanced at the cup of water on my desk and frowned. "No drinks are allowed in the exam hall. It's just water," I said. "Teacher, my throat is bothering me. The doctor told me to drink more water." She looked at me. She probably figured there was no need for a college entrance exam student to lie over a cup of water, so she said nothing more. The bell rang. When the Chinese exam paper was handed out, I took a deep breath and then started answering the questions. Question 1, Modern Chinese Reading Comprehension. Question 2, Reading Classical Chinese Poetry and Prose. Question 3, Language Use Essay. I read the essay prompt, Reflections on Choice. I picked up my pen and wrote the first line on the answer sheet. "The most important choices in life are often not about what you do, but what you choose not to do." My hand was trembling slightly, not from nerves, but from something I had been holding in for a long time, something I could finally let out onto the page. Word by word, I wrote into the essay the things I had never said in my past life. Write about a person who chooses silence, not because she is indifferent, but because she has already tried every kind of kindness. Write about a person who chooses to stand by and watch, not because she is heartless, but because her kindness had once been trampled underfoot and deemed worthless. Write about a person who chooses revenge, not because she doesn't understand forgiveness, but because the people who hurt her never believed they had done anything wrong. When I wrote the last sentence, my pen tip hesitated for a moment. Some people choose to become angels, and some people choose to become demons. As for me, I choose to be myself, a whole, free self that no one can hurt anymore. The bell rang. I set down my pen and flipped the paper over, face down on the desk. In the exam room, some people were sighing, some were stretching, and some were comparing answers. I took one last look at my essay paper, and the corners of my mouth lifted slightly. This was the best essay I had ever written in my life. Not because the writing was brilliant, but because every single word was true. Math in the afternoon. This was the subject I had failed the hardest in my previous life, but this time, the moment the paper was handed out, my mind was crystal clear. Multiple choice, fill in the blank, and open-ended questions. I worked through them one by one without hesitation or getting stuck. Every formula and theorem seemed alive, dancing through my mind. The last big problem was calculus, the final boss question. In my previous life, I had left it blank. This time, I spent 15 minutes writing from the first step to the last, neat and complete, without skipping a single step. The moment I put down my pen, I looked at the sky outside the window. The sunshine is still lovely. It was the second day of the college entrance exam, with English and the comprehensive science paper. English was my strong suit. In my last life, I had relied on it to pull up my score. This time, I worked even faster. Before the listening section had even started, I had already gone through the multiple choice questions in front. By the time the listening ended, I finished the multiple choice, close, and reading comprehension in one smooth stretch. The essay was a formal letter, with handwriting so neat it looked printed. The comprehensive science paper, physics, chemistry, biology. The big physics problem was on electromagnetic induction. I drew the equivalent circuit diagram and worked it out 3 times to make sure the answer was right. The chemistry inference question was on organic chemistry, and it took me less than 10 minutes to derive all the structural formulas. The biology genetics question was on Mendel's laws. I drew the pedigree chart, calculated the probabilities, and wrote every step out in great detail. 24 or 5 minutes before handing in my paper, I checked every answer sheet again to make sure I hadn't left anything blank or filled in any bubbles wrong. Then I lifted my head and looked at the clock at the front of the exam hall. The second hand moved forward 1 notch at a time, making a faint ticking sound. There were still 4 minutes left until the Gaokao ended. 4 minutes until I left this school, left these people, and left behind the nightmare of my last life. The bell rang. "The exam is over. Please stop writing." Everyone was cheering. Some tossed their papers into the air, some hugged their classmates and cried, and some stood on their chairs shouting, "We're free." The proctors didn't stop them, because the college entrance exam was over, and nothing that happened in this classroom mattered anymore. I slowly put my pen back in my pencil case, tucked away my admission ticket, and then picked up that half-full cup of water from the corner of the desk. The cup was still cool to the touch. The surface of the water was still calm. This cup of water had stayed with me through the entire 2 days of the college entrance exam. From the first Chinese exam to the final integrated science test, it had always been there. Quietly sitting at the corner of my desk like a silent witness, I put the cup back into the deepest part of my backpack, slung it over my shoulder, and walked out of the exam hall. The moment sunlight hit my face, I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. The air smelled of gardenias. My mom was waiting for me at the school gate, holding a bouquet of sunflowers, her eyes curved with a smile. The first thing she said when she saw me wasn't, "How did the exam go?" but, "Are you tired?" "Not really," I said. "Mom, I want to eat your sweet and sour pork ribs." Okay, I'll make it as soon as we get home." I wrapped my arm around hers and walked out of the crowd, out of the school gate, and out of this place that had let me be reborn and kept me waiting for 18 years. My phone buzzed, a message from the class group chat. I hadn't checked it for 2 days, and thousands of unread messages had piled up. I opened it and skimmed through them, and a smile slowly spread across my face. The police had already confirmed that Sue Annie's claim about disinfectant was a lie. The label on that small brown glass bottle clearly read sulfuric acid in bold black characters, and it had been taken out of the lab by her mother. Sue Annie's excuse that she thought it was disinfectant shattered like glass shards in the face of hard evidence. She has been officially arrested and charged with the offense of releasing hazardous substances, not attempted, but completed, because people were injured. In fact, all 42 students in the class except me were hurt. 11 of them were seriously injured, including Zhao Xiu. Her esophagus was badly burned, and she needs esophageal dilation surgery. She may have permanent swallowing problems afterward. The doctor said her vocal cords were also damaged, and her voice may stay hoarse forever. Lin Kiki underwent a skin graft on her lips, using skin taken from the inside of her thigh. After the surgery, her lips would be twice as thick as a normal person's, looking like 2 flesh-colored caterpillars crawling on her face. She posted a long message in the class group chat saying, "I'd rather die than live with this face," and then there was nothing after that. Sun Hao was in the worst condition. He drank a whole cup, and he drank the fastest. His esophagus had suffered third-degree burns, and his stomach was badly burned as well. The doctor said his digestive system might be permanently damaged, and from now on he might only be able to eat liquid food. He sent a voice message in the group chat, his voice so faint it was like a mosquito's buzz, broken and halting. After only 3 words, he burst into tears. "I'm in so much pain." 25. Chinsiki was vomiting blood for 2 days and was rushed into the ICU. She stayed there for a full day before being moved out. Her boyfriend, Sun Hao, was in another ward, and they couldn't even see each other. She sent a message in the group chat saying, "Sun Hao's mom said that once we're better, she'll let us get engaged," with a smiling emoji. No one replied to her, because everyone knew that after Sun Hao was discharged, whether he could even eat normally was still an open question. Whether his body could still support a normal future, no one knew. And then there was Zhou Pingqi. He sent a lot of messages. At first, he asked, "Jinjin, are you there? How did you do on the exam? I miss you so much." Then came long monologues, saying that while lying in his hospital bed he had thought a lot, that he regretted it, that he should never have treated Sue Annie that way before, and that the person he cared about most was me. Then, the messages stopped. They stopped for a whole day. The next night, he sent another one, just a single sentence. "The doctor said my vocal cords were burned, and I may never be able to speak again." I stared at that line for a long time. "I may never speak again." Last life, when he forced acid down my throat, I didn't lose my voice. My throat was burned raw and hoarse, but I could still make sounds. The last word I ever said on the operating table was why. They never answered. Now Zhou Pingqi won't answer either, not because he doesn't want to, but because he can't. His vocal cords were destroyed by the sulfuric acid he drank himself, and that cup of acid was poured by Sue Annie, the woman he loved most. Fate's dark humor is more brilliant than anything any screenwriter could come up with. I scrolled through the class group chat, then set my phone on the table, picked up that half cup of water, and walked out to the balcony. The sun was sinking below the horizon, and the clouds at the edge of the sky were stained orange-red, layered on top of one another like paint piled up in an oil painting. On a rooftop in the distance, someone was flying a kite, and a red butterfly swayed and fluttered in the evening breeze. I lifted the glass and held it up to the setting sun. The surface of the water caught the amber light, like a glass of old wine. That glass of water had spent 2 days in my backpack, gone with me to the exam hall, and stayed with me through every test paper. It bore witness to every word I wrote on the college entrance exam, and to the story about choices I wrote in my own hand. Now, its mission was complete. I went into the kitchen and poured the water from the glass into the sink. The water swirled as it rushed down the drain, gurgling as it went. I turned on the tap and let it run for 2 minutes, making sure every last drop of sulfuric acid was diluted and washed away. Then I cleaned the glass and set it upside down on the drying rack. The glass Was clean, the rabbit pattern on the side of the cup looked especially gentle in the glow of the setting sun, crooked and uneven, like a child's doodle. I picked up my phone, took a photo of the rabbit, and posted it to Moments. The caption had only 2 words, clean. Then I left the class group chat. I deleted all my classmates' contact info, including Zhou Pingqi. Before I deleted him, he sent one more message. I only saw the last half of it. Jinjin, please, what was he begging me for? To forgive him, to go to the hospital and see him, to not leave him. I didn't finish reading it. 26. I hit delete and erased his name from my contacts forever, just as he had erased my life and our past life, cleanly, decisively, leaving no trace. What happened after that, I only heard about gradually from all sorts of sources. I didn't go to Sue Annie's trial the day it opened. Lin Kiki went. Her lips were covered with thick gauze, and she had lost a lot of weight. Sitting in the gallery, she cried so hard her whole body trembled. She said she wasn't there to beg for leniency for Sue Annie. She was there for an answer. Why did you hurt us? We were so good to you. Why would you still hurt us? Sue Annie stood in the defendant's dock, wearing an orange detention vest. Her hair had been cut short. The baby fat had faded from her face, and she looked 5 years older. She didn't cry. She didn't say, baby didn't mean it. She just kept her head down, looking at her hands, saying nothing. When the presiding judge asked whether she had anything to say, she looked up, let her gaze sweep across the gallery, and finally on an empty seat. That empty seat was where I was supposed to sit. I didn't go. Her lips moved slightly, and she said 3 words. No one heard what she said, but Lin Kiki later said in the group chat that she saw Sue Annie's lips move. She was saying, I'm sorry, too late, too late. When the sulfuric acid was poured into the cup, she didn't say she was sorry when her classmates drank it. She didn't say she was sorry even when someone was coughing up blood, someone's mouth was rotting away, and someone was rushed to the ICU. She still didn't say she was sorry. Now she's talking, because she got caught, because her future was ruined, because her sweet baby persona had collapsed, because no one would believe her anymore, not because of guilt, but because she lost on the day the verdict came down. My mom was in the living room watching TV. The news ran the story, only 30 seconds long. A student surnamed Sue at a certain middle school has been sentenced to 7 years in prison according to law for putting sulfuric acid into the class drinking water. After watching it, my mom frowned and said, that kid is way too cruel. I heard her from my room and didn't go out. 7 years. 7 years later, she'll be 25. Can she start over after she gets out? Yes. But not everyone will be willing to give her a chance. That stain will stay on her record forever. No university will want to poison her, and no company will hire someone who was pouring sulfuric acid into a classmate's cup back in high school. The moment the iron gate of the prison slammed shut, her sweet baby persona shattered into dust. Zhou Pingqi's message, after I deleted it, somehow made its way back to me through someone else's phone. Lin Kiki forwarded it. She probably thought I should see it. See what the man who had once been endlessly gentle with me had now become. It was a video. Zhou Pingqi was lying in a hospital bed, with a thick bandage wrapped around his neck. His lips were cracked and bleeding, and his eye sockets had sunk deeply in. He was holding up a sheet of paper, on which shaky, crooked handwriting said, Jinjin, I'm sorry. I don't ask for your forgiveness. I only wish you well. At the end of the video, he opened his mouth as if to say something, but only a few muffled, breathy sounds came out. His vocal cords could no longer vibrate. The words he wanted to say were forever stuck in his throat, like acid clogging up the esophagus. When Lin Kiki sent this video, she added a line. He asked me to pass this on to you. He said this was the last time he'd bother you. 27. I didn't reply. I watched the video 3 times. The first time, what I saw was a patient, a poor, pitiful, sympathetic patient whose vocal cords had been burned by acid. On the second reading, I saw a hypocrite, someone who fawned before the goddess, treated his girlfriend with tenderness and care, and always made the wrong choice when a decision had to be made. On the third reading, I saw a stranger who had nothing to do with me. I deleted the video. I didn't block Lin Kiki, because there was no need. She'd soon disappear from my life. Just like all of them, my life was a one-way road, and they'd already been left far behind, so far back I couldn't even see their shadows. The day the college entrance exam results came out, I was watering the flowers on the balcony and my phone rang. It was my mom screaming from the living room. She came running to my bedroom door with her phone in hand, trembling all over, tears streaming down her face. Jinjin, 703 points. You got 703 points. 703 points. 19th in the province. I set down the kettle and took the phone to glance at it. That number sat quietly on the screen, black, in Songdi font, neither too big nor too small. It was a full 200 points higher than my score in my last life. Tsinghua's admissions office called. My mother's voice trembled. They said, as long as you're willing, you can choose any major you want. I stood on the balcony, looking up at the sky in the distance. The midsummer sky was a brilliant blue, with clouds drifting like cotton candy, and a white bird flew past the rooftop, its wings flashing in the sunlight. Okay, I said, that night, while I was packing. I dug the cup out from the deepest part of my backpack. The rabbit design on the cup was still crooked and childlike, like a doodle drawn by a little kid. A faint ring of water stains remained at the bottom. That was the trace left behind after the last drop of sulfuric acid evaporated. I took the cup out onto the balcony and held it up to the moonlight. Moonlight passed through the cup wall, casting a tiny patch of silver-white light on the floor. In my last life, this cup of water was poison. In this lifetime, this cup of water is the evidence. Now, it means nothing. It's just an empty cup, a vessel that once held sulfuric acid and hope. I placed the cup in the most conspicuous spot on my desk. Not because I couldn't let it go, but because I needed a reminder of how dark the human heart can be, a reminder not to become that kind of person. Qinghua's admission letter arrived in August, the red envelope, the gold embossed letters, heavy as a brick. I stood in the living room holding it while my mom took pictures next to me, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold the phone steady. My dad rushed back from the construction site, still covered in dust, without even having time to brush it off, and crouched on the floor staring at it for a long while. In the end, he said, "My daughter's got promise." In the Class 3 group chat, someone posted a screenshot. It was Tsinghua University's admission status page, with my name and exam number on it. Below the screenshot was a long string of ellipses. No one said a word, no one congratulated me, no one scolded me either. They just stood there in silence, looking at that name, that school, and the person they had once hurt, betrayed, and abandoned. As that person walked toward a place they could never reach, Lin Kiki scored just over 400 points and went to a vocational college. Because of health reasons, Sunhao took a year off and will retake the exam next year. Chinsiki went to a local second-tier university and majored in marketing. Zhao Xiu didn't take the college entrance exam, her esophagus was still recovering. Zhou Pingqi didn't either. 28, he had voice cord surgery twice, but neither operation was very successful. His mother said that at home he would write a lot of notes every day. Write one, tear it up, tear one up, write another, then tear that one up too. No one knew what those notes said, but he did write one to me, passed along through Lin Kiki. It was a neatly folded note with just one sentence on it. "Xinjin, the thing I regret most in my life is not cherishing you the way I should have." I didn't reply. I folded the note into an origami crane and put it in that rabbit mug, not because I had forgiven him, but because I had let go of Beijing in September. With clear skies and soft clouds, I pulled my suitcase out of Beijing West Railway Station alone. The sunlight hit me full in the face, warm and bright. People flowed past in the streets, and no one knew me, no one knew my past, and no one would look at me with that complicated, hateful expression. My name is Yang Jinjin. I'm a freshman at Tsinghua University. I'm someone who clawed her way out of sulfuric acid. I lifted my head and looked up at the sky overhead, blue beyond belief, and drew a deep breath. There was no smell of sulfuric acid in Beijing's air. A new life had begun, and as for the consequences those people would face, I didn't need to lift a finger. The cups they picked up themselves had already settled every account for me. One by one, cups can't talk, but they're more honest than any words. The end. Story 2. After the college entrance exams, my younger brother secretly booked a flight to Thailand. He had already secretly booked his ticket to Thailand, aiming to debut as a beauty star. I pretended not to know and even transferred him 20,000 yuan for his trip. I shifted the tone and feigned concern, saying, "But Mom and Dad would never agree. They'd definitely say it's too dangerous for you to go to Thailand alone." In my previous life, I not only stopped my brother but also told our parents. The police soon relayed information that Drake's passport records showed he never went to Korea but flew directly to Thailand. Because of that, he resented me for a full 6 years. The guy was a private investigator who told me my brother had debuted in Thailand and become a household name in the area. While I was abroad on my honeymoon, they sold me and my husband into a scam compound. Our agent quickly booked us flights to Thailand. Watching the video of my legs being broken, he laughed like a maniac. I anonymously hired a bunch of online trolls and sent all of Drake's photos and videos from Thailand to every major gossip account. "You had it coming. This is exactly what you deserve. I got him directly connected with Thailand. You ruined my life, and now I'm going to make you suffer for the rest of yours. Why did you stop me from going abroad back then?" My husband rushed desperately to save me, only to be beaten to death with clubs. After enduring humiliation for over a decade, I returned to find my parents' graves overgrown with weeds. I drew my last breath filled with bitterness. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my brother secretly booked the flight tickets. "Sis, I want to travel abroad alone. I've already planned out the whole trip." My 4 years younger brother Drake was excitedly shaking my arm. Seeing I wasn't responding, he gave me an impatient shove. "Say something, sis. This is ridiculous. I'm an adult now. What gives you the right to stop me from making my own decisions? My whole life I've done everything you asked, studied hard, got into college, and now Even the Gauco is over. How much longer are you going to control my life? His shove sent me stumbling backward, and I collided with the armrest of the sofa. The jolt of pain snapped me back to reality. My gaze dropped to my legs, completely unscathed, firmly planted on the ground. My hand trembled as I raised it to touch my face, a face brimming with youthful collagen. I realized I had truly been reborn. I stared at the demon before me, the dear younger brother who had personally cast me into hell. In my past life, overwhelming hatred threatened to consume me, but I forced a stiff smile. Drake, you're all grown up now. We really shouldn't be telling you what to do anymore. With that, I picked up my phone and transferred 20,000 yuan directly to him. I showed him the screenshot confirming the successful transfer. I have complete faith in you. Here's some spending money for your trip. Go have a great time. Just let me know if you need more. Drake's eyes widened instantly. He stared at me in disbelief, even reaching out to feel my forehead. Sis, you're not running a fever, are you? Since when did you become so easygoing? I brushed his hand away and tried to soften my expression. I've been doing some thinking. We were too hard on you before, always worried you'd make the wrong choices. But you're an adult now, with your own mind. Go do whatever you feel is right. I've got your back. Drake jumped for joy, let out a cheer, and dashed back to his room with his phone. Yes. I'm booking my flight right now. You're the best sister in the whole world. His excited shouts sent a chill straight to my heart. In my past life, when Drake asked to go out alone, I firmly refused, citing safety concerns. Later, I stumbled upon his secret social media account, filled with curses towards our family and his true intentions. I was absolutely horrified when I saw it and immediately told my parents. My parents are extremely traditional and conservative intellectuals. The moment they heard their son wanted to transition, their blood pressure skyrocketed with rage. My dad pulled out his leather belt, my mom grabbed a feather duster, and they gave Drake a good beating, confiscating his passport and ID card too. Little did I know, Drake would hold a grudge against me from that day on. He blames me for shattering his dreams of stardom and ruining his life. He pinned all his resentment on me, and in the end, he made me and my husband pay with our lives for his hatred. In this life, I won't be meddling in other people's business anymore, respect others' destinies, and let go of the savior complex. With that thought, I took a plate of sliced watermelon from the fridge and pushed open my brother's door. He was grinning at his computer screen, but when he saw me come in, he snapped it shut. He eyed me warily. You're having second thoughts, aren't you? I knew it. You always go back on your word. I smiled and set the watermelon on his desk. Of course not. I'm definitely on your side. My brother's expression shifted. Instantly, he furrowed his brow, clearly deep in thought. I patted his shoulder and said reassuringly, you'll have to figure out how to handle mom and dad yourself. This is as far as I can help you. During dinner, Drake seized the opportunity to share his travel plans. Mom and dad exchanged a glance, their faces showing clear hesitation. Where are you planning to go? And which classmates are you going with? Well, we're thinking of going to Korea. All my classmates say it's really fun there, and we'd like to check it out. My dad put down his chopsticks and said with concern, you're not familiar with Korea at all. It'd be better if your sister went with you. Drake immediately objected. I'm not a kid anymore. Besides, my sister has her graduation photo shoot and thesis to worry about. She doesn't have time to babysit me. I chimed in right away. He's not a kid anymore, and South Korea is actually quite safe. Let him go. He can send us photos daily to check in. It'll be fine. Seeing that I agreed, Mom and Dad finally relented. All right then, do you have enough money? Be careful out there, and don't go wandering off. Plenty. Sis already helped me out with the funds. In those first few days, Drake kept his promise and shared stunning views of Korea in our family group chat. One moment it was the bustling nightscape of Dongdaemun, the next sizzling Korean barbecue. He even made a point of snapping photos of some local girls, posting in the chat, look Mom and Dad, so many beauties here. My mom replied cheerfully, you rascal, stay safe out there, and don't just spend all your time checking out girls. My father then said sternly, don't waste money, don't drink, and make sure you're back at the hotel early in the evening. I just quietly liked every photo he posted, never adding any unnecessary comments. About a week later, the photos in the group chat stopped coming. My mom was the first to lose it. Frantically at ING my brother in the group, son, how come you've stopped sharing photos? Drake, reply as soon as you see this, otherwise we're calling the police. When their calls went unanswered, Mom and Dad completely panicked. They contacted his younger brother's classmates, but they all said they never made plans with Drake to go to South Korea. My parents were utterly distraught and consumed with regret. My father's hair turned half-white overnight as he kept muttering to himself, it's all my fault. Why didn't I stop him when I had the chance? My mother held me while sobbing. What are we going to do? Has something happened to your brother? I pretended to be even more heartbroken than they were. I sobbed until my vision went black, then collapsed rigidly onto the floor. My parents were terrified, frantically rushing me to the hospital in a panic. The doctor said it was a sudden surge of distress combined with overwhelming grief. When I came to, I clutched my mother's hand. Weeping uncontrollably, "Mom, Dad, it's all my fault, I never should have convinced you to let him go. If anything happens to my brother, I don't want to live anymore. My life has lost all meaning." Before they could react, I snatched the fruit knife from the hospital bedside table and drew it across my wrist. Of course, I only broke the skin and drew a little blood, but that was enough to scare my parents out of their wits. My father snatched the knife away, trembling with rage. "You foolish child. If anything happens to you, how are we supposed to go on living?" My mother held me tight, her sobs heart-wrenching. "Yes, your brother is already missing. You can't scare us like that again." It jolted them awake to the reality. They still had another child. They couldn't afford to break down. Summoning their strength, they pressed on with the search for my brother while pouring all their care and attention into me. The Thai police made no headway in the investigation, so the case was eventually classified as a missing persons matter. My parents seemed to have aged 10 years overnight, hoping to give them an outlet for their stress and grief. I signed them up for an audition for a short play. "What? Acting?" My mother's eyes widened in disbelief. "Stop being ridiculous. At our age, we're not cut out for acting." My father shook his head firmly. "That's for young people. We're not going." I held their hands with determination. "Just treat it as an outing, an experience. You've been carrying too much pain. You need an outlet to release it." When we arrived on set, the director asked them to try a scene about losing a child. My parents didn't need to act at all. My father stood there with hollow eyes, tears streaming down his face without a sound. The sheer despair and restrained grief of parents who had lost their child in midlife brought the entire set to a hushed silence. My mother dropped to her knees, pounding the floor, her heart-wrenching sobs coming from a place no acting technique could ever reach. The director immediately decided, "You're the ones." After that intense emotional release, Mom and Dad felt as if a huge weight had been lifted from their hearts. They started taking on various short drama roles, always playing wealthy parents. My father's refined dignity and my mother's elegant compassion quickly made them popular in the short drama scene. They've become the most sought-after wealthy parents character actors in the industry. After the Drake incident, my parents completely gave up on their obsession with making me take civil service exams. They said all that matters is my happiness and health, so I quit my corporate job and returned to the dance studio. In the mirror, my figure remains as lithe as ever. By chance, I visited my parents on set and caught the director's eye immediately. The director said I had a fragile yet resilient quality, perfect for the female lead in his new film. Over the years, my parents gradually emerged from the shadow of my brother's disappearance, focusing more on their acting careers. Our family's popularity kept growing, and we started appearing on several variety shows. My parents began transitioning into TV dramas, while I won Best New Actress for that film and became a rising star in the industry. In this lifetime, I ended up with the same man I married in my previous life. He approached me backstage at an awards ceremony. "Miss Vale, hello, have we met somewhere before? You look so familiar to me." I suppressed the surging bitterness and longing in my heart. The memory of him dying for me in our past life was still vivid before my eyes. I teased him on purpose. "Ethan, is this how you hit on a celebrity? That line is so outdated." But he was completely serious. "No, I mean it. Your eyes remind me of someone very important." My heart ached, but I smiled even more brightly. "I guess I have one of those faces. My husband comes from a wealthy family and is a well-known investor in the industry. To support my career, he became the primary investor for several of my projects. With his backing and my parents' connections, my opportunities kept improving, and I quickly rose to become an A-list actress. Our family became wealthier and successfully moved up the social ladder. Although my parents' lives were filled with filming and variety shows, they never gave up searching for Drake. They even offered a hefty reward overseas for any information leading to Drake. I secretly worked behind the scenes to prevent all of this. I used my connections to intercept most of the truly valuable intel, feeding them only harmless bits of misinformation. But then one day, a call I hadn't managed to block got through to my dad's phone. My parents were so overjoyed they wept, cracking open champagne that very night to celebrate. But after the initial joy came a deep sense of bewilderment. "That little rascal," my dad slammed the table in fury. "If he's made it as a star, then why hasn't he come home all these years? Why hasn't he contacted us? That ungrateful brat." My mom wiped away her tears, saying, "Do you think he might be in some kind of trouble? Could someone be controlling him? Since our whole family is in the public eye now." Our agent repeatedly stressed that we must keep a low profile and avoid being spotted by obsessive fans or paparazzi. Actually, that detective also sent photos to my parents at the time, but the email went to my inbox first, and I intercepted it without anyone knowing. In the photo, Drake was completely unrecognizable. He was wearing garish makeup and a revealing stage costume, perched on the lap of an overweight older white man. The whole scene was an absolute eyesore. I stoically deleted the original email and forwarded my parents only a heavily photoshopped stage photo, airbrushed beyond recognition. Only by letting our parents see our brother's true, most wretched state with their own eyes, would they be truly disappointed and finally give up on him the night we arrived. We didn't go straight to see Drake. I made the excuse that everyone was exhausted from the long flight and needed to rest at the hotel for the night. Meanwhile, I used this time to contact a local friend and asked him to round up a few dozen people to patronize my brother's business the next day. I made sure to emphasize that they should have a great time. The following evening, I took my parents in an inconspicuous van to the place where Drake worked. It was a seedy bar district, with the air thick with the smell of alcohol and cheap perfume. My father's brow furrowed instantly. Drake. He's a star in a place like this. Feigning surprise, I explained on Drake's behalf. Maybe the celebrities around here are just more down to earth. The moment we stepped into the glitzy bar, deafening music hit us like a wave. Wading through the haze-filled crowd, we spotted Drake on stage right away. He was wearing heavy, seductive makeup, shrieking with excitement as he played a striptease game. He had just slipped off his camisole, revealing a lacy bra underneath, which drove the men around him into a wild frenzy. My parents froze on the spot, as if struck by lightning. You disgrace! My father trembled with rage, grabbing a nearby bottle and lunging forward. That shameless bastard, he's disgraced our entire family. Drake, my child. My mother screamed hysterically, shoving through the crowd and pushing the bodyguard aside. She took off her own coat and wrapped it tightly around my brother. You thugs, get away from here. Don't you dare lay a finger on my son. The men were startled by the sudden turn of events. Seeing our tall, burly bodyguards closing in, they scattered while muttering curses under their breath. Drake was also stunned, frantically using his clothes to cover himself. When he realized it was Mom, Dad, and me, he burst into loud, heart-wrenching sobs, crying even more pitifully than my mother. What took you so long? He threw himself into my mother's arms, pounding on her back. I've suffered so much. Do you have any idea how much I've been wronged? Here, I stepped forward at just the right moment, feigning shock and concern. Brother, what on earth happened? Didn't you go to South Korea back then? How did you end up here? Were you tricked into coming? Drake lifted his tear-streaked face, his eyes glaring at me with pure venom. Stop pretending, Vale. You knew I came to Thailand all along. You did this on purpose. He shoved my mom aside and yelled in my face. You deliberately kept Mom and Dad from looking for me. You bitch, you'd love nothing more than for me to die out here. With me gone as the air, all the family money would be yours. My parents exchanged a look, their faces a mix of embarrassment and shock. They were clearly stunned by Drake's shameless accusations. My father cut off his sobbing and snapped. What nonsense are you talking? Come back to our country with us first. It's not safe here. Just as we were about to take Drake away, a man in a floral shirt blocked our path, with several tattooed tough guys behind him. Thinking of leaving, the boss said, cigar in mouth, with a smirk that didn't reach his eyes. Sure thing, once he pays back every cent he owes us, you can take him whenever you want. Turns out, the money Drake brought with him wasn't even enough to cover the full set of surgeries, let alone fund his debut, so he signed a star-making contract with this boss for an astronomical sum. But breaking into the industry was no easy feat. Not only did he fail to make it, his debts kept piling up. Normally, I could only repay the debt by entertaining these clients. Seeing their once respectable eldest son now reduced to this androgynous state, forced to sell his body to pay off debts, our parents were utterly heartbroken and nearly fainted from rage. In the end, with trembling hands, my father paid the enormous sum by card. After disembarking, the three of us put on sunglasses and face masks, then discreetly exited through the VIP passage. Even so, sporadic camera flashes still went off. Drake clearly wasn't used to this kind of commotion. Instinctively shrinking behind my mom, it wasn't until we got into the van that it finally dawned on him. Watching the paparazzi still chasing and snapping photos outside the window, he remarked with a tinge of envy, Mom, Dad, Sis, you're all such big stars now. He was seething with resentment, the jealousy practically oozing from his eyes, but he quickly adjusted his expression, putting on a pitiful, tearful look, his tone dripping with feigned innocence. But I don't blame my sister at all. Even though it was she who encouraged me to chase my dreams abroad, and she who told me not to tell Mom and Dad, saying you'd never agree. My mom was tenderly wiping his face, and upon hearing this, she asked in confusion, Drake, what nonsense are you talking? Drake froze. My mother sighed and said quietly, your sister never said that. We've known about your secret social media account for a long time. You're the one who sneaked abroad, determined to become some kind of celebrity. What does that have to do with your sister? Drake's face instantly turned beet red. He never imagined that the secret he thought was so well kept had been completely transparent to his parents all along. Humiliated and furious, he burst into tears again, throwing a full-blown tantrum on the floor. I don't care. She's the one who tricked me. She set me up. She's just jealous that I'm prettier than her. Scared I'll become more famous than her if I debut. His crying was overly dramatic and whiny, laced with that accent of his, making my father's veins bulge with anger. Watch your tone and speak properly. My father is a deeply traditional man at heart. He could handle a rebellious son, but seeing his boy turn into this effeminate version was just too much for him. If you dare speak in that tone again, I'll break your legs. My father was so furious he raised his hand, ready to teach this ungrateful son a lesson. I quickly stopped him and pleaded, Dad, please don't be angry. Don't you always say you adore your daughter the most? Since your son is now your daughter, why not just cherish her as your little girl? This only made my father angrier. What a sin. This is truly a sin. The atmosphere in the car became unbearably awkward. Before going abroad, my parents had been saying how terribly my brother had suffered, and that we must throw a grand homecoming banquet to announce to the world that our long-lost son had finally returned. But after returning from abroad this time, the whole family tacitly avoided bringing up the matter again. We didn't even announce publicly that my younger brother had been found, because the state he's in now is simply too embarrassing to present to others. Back home, Drake sank into the soft couch and started playing the victim again. I've suffered so much these past few years. You have no idea what I've been through. I nodded and poured him a glass of water. I know. It must be incredibly difficult for a man to be bullied by so many other men. I'd go crazy if I were in your shoes. A flicker of embarrassment and anger crossed my brother's face as he said in a shrill voice, I was forced into it. What choice did I have? I know, I said, humoring him. Now that you're back, you're safe. No one will ever bully you again in your own home. I even offered to let Drake move into my room. Little brother, my room is the biggest with the best view. You take my room, I'll stay in the guest room. My parents looked at me with such approval and relief in their eyes, seeing how considerate I was being. My mother held my hand and said, Vale, you've really grown up. You're still the most sensible one. My father nodded in agreement. Your brother just got back and is still finding his footing. Be patient with him. I nodded obediently. Don't worry, Mom and Dad. I'll take good care of my brother. Drake watched our happy family scene, grinding his teeth with envy in the evening. Our whole family was sitting in the living room watching TV. Drake's eyes nearly popped out of his head when he saw our parents' latest period drama airing on CCTV1. Dad, Mom, is that you? How did you end up on national television? Our parents just gave a casual MHM they'd starred in at least 8 to 10 CCTV dramas over the past few years. During the commercial break, I switched the channel back to Mango TV. They were replaying my period romance drama that took the nation by storm, right at the scene where I'm in a stunning red outfit delivering fierce and graceful fight moves. I excitedly tapped my brother's arm. Look, bro, that's me playing the female lead. How's my acting? Drake sneered sarcastically. Pretty average. Her eyes are as lifeless as a dead fish's. Zero spark. I feigned a sigh of sorrow. I'm also quite dissatisfied with my acting skills. I simply can't understand why the audience had to go and vote me last year's best actress through the series. Isn't that just infuriating? Drake's face turned livid with rage upon hearing this. He snatched the remote control from the table and hurled it violently at the 85-inch LCD television. With a deafening crash, the television screen shattered into pieces. Both my parents jumped in shock. Drake, what's gotten into you now? My father roared. Drake yelled back, you're all so amazing. You're all big shots. I'm the only worthless one here. You all look down on me, don't you? After being thoroughly provoked by the three of us, Drake's starry dreams were rekindled. He's convinced that he's just had bad luck, and that if his parents had supported him back then, he'd be more famous than all of us by now. He secretly signed himself up for the hottest girl group audition show currently running. He said he'd taken a wrong turn before, but now he's getting back on track to prove himself with real talent. On the show, he wore a pink girl group uniform, freely showcasing his dance moves and vocals on stage. To be honest, there was some genuine skill, but it came off as more bizarre than anything. Soon enough, skeptical voices emerged online. Why does this person seem like a guy? Am I the only one who finds this whole look just weird? Wait, seriously, did contestant number 2 forget to shave her legs? Whoa, the camera zoomed in and I can see her thick leg hair. LOL, never seen an idol so unkempt. What's wrong with having leg hair? Everybody's got body hair. Our Feifei is one of a kind. Surprisingly, Drake's unconventional style actually won over some fans with quirky tastes, and many started voting for him. After seeing the online attacks, our parents were worried that our younger brother couldn't handle the cyberbullying and advised him to withdraw from the competition. Drake, maybe you should just drop out of the competition. Mom and Dad can support you if you come home. But Drake thought we were just afraid he'd become famous, and his attitude became even more arrogant. You just can't stand to see me succeed. Just wait, any publicity is good publicity. I'm about to blow up, I sneered as I anonymously sent a complaint letter to both the program team and the State Administration of Radio and Television. Soon after, the internet exploded with the bombshell revelation that a transgender individual had participated in the female idol competition. Even more explosive was the explicit detail in the complaint stating that although this person had undergone surgery, the procedure wasn't complete. From a medical standpoint, they technically remain biologically male. All hell broke loose. Netizens flooded the comments demanding the younger contestant leave the show. Fans went into a frenzy at the thought of their pure, untainted idol sharing a bedroom and bathroom with a man. Bowing to pressure, the production team immediately announced Drake's withdrawal from the competition. After being kicked off the show, Drake flew into a rage out of humiliation. He immediately went live on social media, tearfully claiming that he was Vale's biological brother and that our family had ganged up to suppress him and prevent his debut. He produced a family photo, sobbing about the persecution he suffered at our hands. Just as he wished, he single-handedly dragged our entire family down with him. The whole family got blacklisted. All our endorsement deals, film crews, and variety shows sent us sternly worded termination notices. Mom and Dad saw the overwhelming torrent of online abuse and felt like they'd lost face for generations to come, yet Drake was still at home smashing things and having huge screaming matches with us. Other celebrities go all out to pave the way for their children to become Nepo babies, pulling every string to get them resources. And you don't even deserve to be called parents. You're just jealous that I'm more famous than you now. The management team held an emergency meeting overnight, and everyone was on the exact same page. Cut all ties with Drake immediately and issue a statement severing the relationship. It's the only way to limit the damage. My parents hesitated, with red-rimmed eyes. My mother said with a pained expression, no matter how awful he is, he's still my son. He's only acting this crazy because he's been through a shock. I don't blame my parents. It's true that no parent would easily give up on their child, even if he were a monster. They even went so far as to suggest that I should cut ties with them instead. Vale, you're different from us. You're still young. Don't let us hold you back. Exactly. Issue a statement now and pin all the responsibility on us. Through tears, I insisted we'd just gotten my brother back and no one had the right to tear our family apart. Meanwhile, behind their backs, I reached out to a reality show director I was on good terms with. This director's show is all about raw authenticity. Not only is it streamed live 247, but everyone's phones get confiscated too. Half the time, even the participants have no clue where the hidden cameras are. I called the director and pleaded earnestly, Director Wang, our family is being torn apart online. They're calling my brother a creep and us his enablers. We want to join your show and let people see our real, unfiltered lives. Director Wang's voice trembled with excitement. Absolutely, Vale. I'm definitely giving you this opportunity. I just love genuine artists like you. So on the first day of the live stream, I lied to them, saying there was no way we could stay in the country any longer and that I'd tapped into Hollywood connections. Our family of four made a rather disheveled boarding onto the plane headed for a private island. The live stream chat was instantly flooded with tens of millions of viewers. LMAO, Hollywood, get this problematic celebrity off the planet already. What kind of family raises a creep who sneaks into women's dorms? The whole lot of them are trash. A small number of rational fans did speak up for me and my parents. I trust Vale and his parents. They've delivered so many great performances, their character can't be bad. But soon the voices of criticism drowned it out. During the live stream, my brother's words and actions once again crossed the line for viewers. He bossed our parents around and was even more abusive toward me, both physically and verbally, yet my parents patiently taught and advised him all along. I dropped to my knees with a thud before Drake, clutching his legs as I begged him through tears, Brother, I'm begging you, stop torturing us. What will it take for you to leave Mom and Dad alone? To leave me alone? We'll give you anything within our power. The online sentiment began to shift the moment I knelt down. Holy crap, this brother is just born evil, isn't he? How could he do this when his parents and sister have been so good to him? Poor Vale. She even got down on her knees begging her brother. Vale's family should just cut ties with him already. He's beyond redemption. Director Wang secretly called me and said excitedly, our show is the hottest reality program online right now. We've broken viewership records. Just hang in there a bit longer. Don't let things fall apart. Drake was making a scene on the island, demanding to go back home. He said the lack of signal was driving him crazy since he couldn't use his phone. I had no choice but to give him a work phone from the production team, but I'd already uninstalled all domestic apps beforehand, cutting off his access to outside information. That day, Drake came running to me all excited. Sis, great news. I got in touch with a big Hollywood director. He's filming in Southeast Asia right now and wants us to go meet him immediately. Using that phone in secret, he booked a flight to some small Southeast Asian country. Looking at his excited face, my heart turned to ice. The place he was taking me to was the same hell I knew from my past life. As I boarded that small plane, I sent my final message to Director Wang. Using the work phone, Director Wang, my brother is selling us out to a scam compound. Coordinate sent. Contact Chinese police and the embassy immediately. Remember to keep the live stream running, don't cut it off. Director Wang gasped in disbelief, instantly realizing this episode would go down in history. After the plane landed, we were taken to a heavily guarded compound. This was the place I'd spent over a decade, and during my previous life, every corner felt hauntingly familiar. The compound's boss smiled as he handed Drake a stack of cash. Well done, your parents and sister are celebrities now, they're worth every penny. Drake took the money and kissed it excitedly, saying, you all stay here and focus on your filming. I'm heading back home first. My parents were crying and screaming, unable to believe what was happening before their eyes. Drake, why? What did we ever do to wrong you? Why would you betray us like this? Drake's face instantly twisted into a vicious scowl as he glared at us with pure malice. Why? Because you're all more famous than me. And that's a capital offense. He burst into maniacal laughter. I'll return home and tell everyone you died in a tragic accident in Hollywood. I'll play the pitiful yet attractive victim whose entire family perished, then make a grand comeback to the entertainment industry by climbing over your connections and resources. The live stream chat was flooded with furious comments, crashing the server multiple times. The police have been notified. A bastard like this deserves to die 10,000 times over. Oh my god, is this live? I can't believe my eyes. Is this even human? Amid my parents' desperate cries, my face remained perfectly composed. I walked step by step toward Drake, leaned close to his ear, and whispered in a voice only the two of us could hear, little brother, I'm sorry I couldn't let you experience the suffering I endured in my past life all over again. Before Drake could process it, what did you say? The next second, the compound's iron gate was rammed open by a heavy vehicle, and countless heavily armed police officers stormed in. Before Drake could even grasp what was happening, two police officers pinned him firmly to the ground. All the ringleaders in the compound were arrested. Watching them being hooded and handcuffed filled me with the sweet satisfaction of vengeance served. The full force of the law awaits them for the rest of their lives. Many innocent victims like us, who are also lured here under false pretenses, can finally be rescued and repatriated. They were completely stunned when they saw the heavily armed film crew and journalists. When they realized it was our family who had alerted the police, they all dropped to their knees thanking us and the production crew. Thank you, you saved our lives. Vale, I'll be your diehard fan for life. Drake was sentenced to life imprisonment for kidnapping, intentional assault, and multiple transnational crimes. With the sentences to be served concurrently, the first thing I did after returning home was to issue a public statement with my parents, officially severing all ties with Drake. Support. A scumbag like him doesn't deserve to have family, should have cut ties ages ago. Raising such an ungrateful wretch in the family is the worst luck imaginable. My heart goes out to Uncle, Auntie, and Vale. I hope they can move forward and live a good life. Honestly, this family has the patience of a saint. With that kind of endurance, they could succeed at anything. After that heart-stopping real-life ordeal, our family became synonymous with justice and fighting fraud. We landed roles in several crime-themed movies and TV shows, always playing characters who outsmart the bad guys. CCTV's Legal Affairs program even dedicated an in-depth interview segment to our story. Sitting in the studio with my parents, I recounted the whole ordeal while a ticker at the bottom of the screen read, "Stay vigilant. Steer clear of scams." Our venture reached new heights after that, but that wasn't enough. Videos of him kissing old white men and stripping in bars went viral overnight across the entire internet. Netizens treated them like gold, quickly turning the footage into all sorts of meme videos and reaction gifs. Drake became a complete laughingstock, forever immortalized as an internet disgrace. My parents stumbled upon these meme videos while scrolling through their short-form feed. They watched those disturbing scenes in complete silence. That night, my father drank heavily. My mother locked herself in her room and cried all night. The next day, they emerged as if a great weight had been lifted from their hearts. Vale, we've all seen those videos. We've completely given up hope. From now on, this family no longer has a son. Drake demonstrated good behavior in prison and was released decades ahead of schedule. By that time, I had already swept all major Best Actress awards domestically and internationally, becoming an esteemed veteran in the industry. My parents have become highly respected veteran actors, admired by all. After Drake got out of prison, the first thing he did was come looking for us. He stood at the entrance of our gated community, hunched over in ill-fitting old clothes. Before he could even get close, the security guards, acting on my parents' orders, chased him away like a beggar. But I managed to get in touch with him and arranged to meet at a low-key private cafe. With tears streaming down his face, he grabbed my hand and pleaded, "Sis, I was wrong. I truly know I messed up. Please convince Mom and Dad to forgive me." I smiled, gently pulled my hand back, and handed him a tissue. "No need to rush. You're still quite famous these days, even if it's for all the wrong reasons. I suggest you become an influencer. Live streaming sales would definitely bring in good money." After decades of re-education in prison, Drake seemed to have genuinely turned over a new leaf. No. I just want an ordinary job to support myself. I'm done with the spotlight. But whenever he applied for work, the moment someone recognized him, they'd immediately show him the door. With no other options left, he had no choice but to take my advice and start live streaming. On his very first live stream, the chat was flooded with furious netizens, and the screen was filled with all sorts of nasty comments. Drake's mental fortitude was nowhere near as strong as it had been in his youth. Overwhelmed by despair, he ran to an overpass with the intention of ending his life. I showed up just in time and managed to save him, but don't mistake this for kindness. I patted Drake on the shoulder and sighed. Seems you can't make it here anymore. Look, I'll help you one last time. I'll give you money to go abroad, start fresh somewhere else. He was overflowing with gratitude, thinking I actually cared about our past ties. The old boss has passed away, and his daughter has taken over the business. You remember my brother Drake, don't you? He's thinking about getting back into the old trade. The person on the phone laughed heartily. Of course I remember him. We're actually short-handed right now. Some clients have rather particular tastes. They actually prefer older guys like him. Don't worry, Vale. If he comes back, we'll make sure he's booked solid every single day. A week later, I received the video the other party had sent. In the footage, my brother, now past his 50s, was kneeling on the floor serving a customer, his makeup even more dramatic than it had been years ago. Feeling reassured, I deleted the video for good. With my husband at the wheel, we drove together to my parents' house for hot pot. The sun is shining brightly outside, while the hot pot steams warmly indoors. In this lifetime, all the people I love are living happily and beautifully. Story 2. My sister and I are disciples of the beast-taming sect, each permitted to form contracts with 2 spirit beasts. A noble-blooded fire phoenix immediately chose my sister. Without hesitation, all that remained was a mangy, dying mutt covered in festering sores. Unable to bear watching it perish, I formed a contract with it nonetheless. My sister soars across the heavens on her phoenix, revered by all, while here I am, toiling in the fields with a sickly mutt, scorned by my fellow disciples. My talent rivals hers, yet this worthless spirit beast cost me even my promotion rights. They all say killing this dog would give me a fresh start. I turned them all away. Cradling the mongrel dog, I gently combed through its tangled fur. Don't worry, a pact is for life. Even if you never recover, I'll never abandon you. But when the beast tide came, that decade-ailing mongrel let out an earth-shaking roar and transformed into the primordial divine beast, the heaven-devouring hoe. I struggled amidst the beast tide, screaming desperately toward him, yet he only rescued my sister from the fire phoenix's back, gently placing her on his own. The truth dawned. He'd never formed a contract with me, but was a guardian beast soul bound to my sister. All these years, the spiritual energy I'd fed him had simply been channeled to her through their pact. When I opened my eyes again, I saw this mangy mutt panting before me, its body covered in festering sores. In one fluid motion, I drove my sword through its heart. Warm blood splattered across my face. Gripping the hilt, I shoved the blade another inch deeper. The blade pierced clean through its beating heart. The mongrel before me, destined to become the devouring hound Mordred, let out a whimper, its saucer-like eyes brimming with shock and confusion. It couldn't comprehend why the master who'd been tenderly petting it moments ago, vowing never to abandon it, would suddenly deal this lethal blow. Not that I'd ever explain, I'd only be putting it to death again. Celine, what are you doing? A shrill cry came from the doorway as my sister Arya, dressed in white, rushed in with disbelief written all over her face. Seeing the stray dog lying in a pool of blood, tears welled up instantly in her eyes as she threw herself forward to cradle it in her arms. Are you insane? It's just a dumb animal. How could you do this? She wept as if the knife had pierced her own heart instead of the dog's. I watched her theatrics with cold detachment. In my past life, wearing the same mask of compassion, she whispered to me right before the beasts tore me apart. Little sister, don't blame me. Blame yourself for choosing such a worthless thing and daring to challenge me. I drew my longsword, flicking the blood droplets from its blade. What's it to you if I kill what's mine? Arya clutched the dying Mordred, her fingers digging into its flesh as she wailed in anguish. One, it's dying. How can you be so heartless? At that moment, an icy black demonic energy erupted from Mordred's wound. That wasn't spiritual energy, it was pure demonic power. Piercing its heart didn't kill it, only shattered its disguise and forced a wisp of its true essence to leak out prematurely. A glint of greed flashed in Arya's eyes, but was quickly drowned in sorrow. Master, save me, master, my sister's gone mad. She killed poor little Mordred. Clutching Mordred, she dashed straight to the master's alchemy chamber. I just stared down at the sword in my hands. This is my only magical weapon, the lowest grade black iron sword issued when I first joined the sect. In my past life, I treasured this thing like it was my most prized possession. Soon, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed. The master entered with several elders, his brow furrowing as he noticed the bloodstains on the floor. "Celine, do you confess your guilt?" His voice boomed with unquestionable authority. I raised my head and met his gaze. "What crime have I committed?" "Slaughtering the innocent without mercy. That spirit beast may be of humble lineage, but it was still a living being. Your sister exhausted her own spiritual energy to save it. Yet you turned around and gravely wounded it, utterly heartless." The master's voice was thick with disappointment. "What fine compassion indeed. Where were you all when I was surrounded by the beast tide in my past life?" "Right. You're all cheering for Arya riding the phoenix and rescuing Mordred. They call her a once-in-a-century genius of our sect, the hope for our future, while I'm just a stepping stone on her path to glory, expendable and unworthy of mourning." "Master," I said calmly, "sect rules state a disciple's contracted spirit beast lives or dies by their will alone. No outside interference. Killing my own dog doesn't count as senseless slaughter, does it?" "You..." My master choked on his words, his face turning livid with rage. An elder stepped forward to mediate. "Celine, this was merely a momentary lapse. If you admit your fault and reflect in the Frostfang Cavern for 3 months, we'll consider this matter settled." The Frostfang Cavern, that place is bone-chillingly cold. Only those who've been imprisoned there know its true torment. It's practically a fate worse than death. Last time I just failed a promotion and got locked up there for half a year. Now that I've gone completely mad, they only lock me up for 3 months. Seems like stabbing some worthless mutt doesn't even register as a big deal to them. "Fine, I'll go," I agreed without hesitation. I need a quiet place to plot my revenge, and a place to practice the demonic arts I glimpsed from Mordred in my dying moments of the previous life. Since beast taming isn't working, I'll take a different path. Whether I become a god or a demon matters not, as long as I can make those who've wronged me pay the price. An icy wind cuts through the cavern's depths, the damp air reeks of decay. Cross-legged on the stone bed, I guided the faint spiritual energy within me through an entirely new and eerie circulation pattern. This was the demon transformation art I'd reverse-engineered from Mordred's demonic energy fluctuations. The technique was ruthlessly efficient. It could directly plunder the world's demonic energy for cultivation, far outpacing orthodox methods. Suddenly everything made sense, yet the risks were equally extreme. A single misstep could flood my meridians with corrupt energy, shattering them and reducing me to a mindless demonic beast. In my past life, I wouldn't have dared to imagine this, but in this life, I've got nothing left to lose. Worst case scenario, I'll just die again. As the cultivation technique circulated, wisps of dark demonic energy seeped through the cave's crevices, invading my body. Excruciating pain tore through my meridians. I clenched my teeth as sweat soaked through my robes. Just as I was about to collapse, faint footsteps echoed from outside the cave. Instantly, I suppressed my aura and resumed the feeble facade of a cripple. I didn't budge. The seal at the cave entrance lifted as Arya stepped in carrying a food box, placing the box on the stone table. She spoke in a gentle murmur. "You've suffered, little sister. I brought your favorite pastries." The concern and tenderness on her face held not a trace of pretense. If I hadn't died once before, I might have fallen for her lies again. I ignored her, leaning against the cold stone wall with my eyes closed. Arya didn't take offense, calmly unpacking the ornate food box to display its delicate pastries. "Pathetic, little sister, I know you're upset, but Master only wants what's best for you. Your talent shouldn't be wasted on that worthless mutt, though it's badly injured now. At least it survived. Once it recovers, I'll take good care of it." She paused, then asked tentatively, "Speaking of which, that black mist coming from its wound was really strange. Do you know what it was?" "Little sister, this was the real reason for her visit today." I opened my eyes, my gaze utterly lifeless. "I don't know." Arya's smile froze momentarily before returning to normal. "True, as righteous disciples, we wouldn't know such sinister demonic energy, though Master said its purity is exceptional. If harnessed properly, it might help my fire phoenix breakthrough." She sighed with visible distress. Alas, after that day, the poor thing never showed any trace of demonic aura again. As fleeting as a night blooming serious, she spoke while carefully observing my reaction. "Mordred is an ancient divine beast. Its primordial demonic energy is far too precious to be revealed so casually. Had my sword strike not broken its meridian seal that day, not even a wisp of that energy would have leaked out." Clearly, Arya had her eyes set on this power. "You're absolutely right, sister. What a shame." I played along with a perfectly measured tone of regret. Seeing me like this, Arya seemed to lower her guard. I almost burst out laughing. She gave a soft hum, her tone laced with barely concealed smugness. "No matter, that mutt may be useless, but it's got something special. You were lucky to form a contract with it. Pity you weren't destined to keep it." She murmured these words under her breath, almost as if talking to herself. Yet in the silence of this frozen cavern, it rang clear. In my ears, I lowered my eyelids, veiling the murderous glint in my eyes. Easy now, Arya, your reckoning will come. The day I emerge will mark the beginning of your nightmare. She offered a few more insincere words of comfort before leaving in disappointment. When I remained unmoved, watching her retreating figure, I slowly curled my lips into a smirk. Little does she know I'm fully aware. She thought she had hidden it perfectly. Little did she know that careless remark just now completely confirmed my suspicions. She's known Mordred's true identity from the very beginning. Her getting close to me, buttering me up, it was all to steal what was rightfully mine through me. I closed my eyes and began circulating the demon transformation art once more. This time, the stinging pain in my meridians seemed noticeably duller, for I knew each pang of agony brought me one step closer to vengeance. 3 months later, I was released from the Frost Abyss cavern. The sunlight felt harsh against my skin. Squinting for a moment to adjust, I then made my way toward the courtyard. In the yard, the stray dog, Mordred, was curled at Arya's feet, nuzzling affectionately against her trousers. Though its wounds had healed, it still looked sickly and scabbed all over. The moment it saw me, it sprang to its feet with a menacing growl rumbling deep in its throat. Arya crouched down and gently stroked its head to calm it. Poor little thing, don't be afraid. Big sister's here now. She won't hurt you again. She looked up at me with a triumphant smile. Little sister, you're out. Look how well I've taken care of this poor thing. Watching this pair, I couldn't help but feel the bitter irony. One's a cuckoo in the nest, the other mistakes a thief for family. A match made in hell. What excellent care indeed. Now you're barking like a dog with its master's backing. My words instantly darkened Arya's expression. You, Celine, don't be so ungrateful. If it weren't for our sisterly bond, I'd have already convinced Master to expel you. I couldn't be bothered to waste more words on her and turned back into my room. The door closed, shutting out prying eyes. In the days that followed, I lived in seclusion, devoting myself entirely to cultivation. Meanwhile, Arya paraded around with Mordred and her fire phoenix in tow. The entire sect knew senior sister Arya was not only extraordinarily gifted, but also kind-hearted. She even treated the worthless mud abandoned by junior sister Celine as her own, and I became the textbook example of a petty, cold-blooded villain too. I couldn't care less about that. People can say whatever they want. Words are cheap in this world. Real power is the only currency that matters. The decade-long spirit beast ranking ceremony of our sect is about to commence. This is the beast-taming sect's grandest event, where all disciples must present their contracted spirit beasts for evaluation. Resources and status within the sect will be redistributed based on each beast's rank and combat prowess. On the eve of the ceremony, Arya came to me again. She stood at my doorway, looking down at me with that imperious gaze. Celine, the rank ceremony is tomorrow. Are you ready? She knew perfectly well I had no spirit beast, yet asked deliberately with undisguised mockery. Oh, I forgot your mutt belongs to me now. Covering her lips with a chuckle, her eyes brimmed with triumph. Little sister, if you wish to save yourself from embarrassment tomorrow, you could beg me. Perhaps I might persuade Master to make an exception. You could assist me in tending to the fire phoenix. At least it would keep you occupied. I stared at her insincere smile and suddenly found the situation rather amusing. No need. I appreciate your kindness, elder sister. Arya met this gentle rebuff with a darkening expression, then turned sharply on her heel and stormed off. The ranking ceremony commenced as scheduled the following day. The massive training ground was packed with a sea of people. Every disciple stood with their spirit beasts, faces etched with either nervousness or anticipation. Only I remained solitary in the corner, an outcast amidst the crowd. Arya was the center of attention. She descended from the sky astride that noble phoenix of royal lineage, drawing gasps of awe from the crowd. The phoenix moved with majestic grace, its iridescent feathers shimmering as its clarion cry made all other birds bow in reverence. The elders nodded approvingly, their faces beaming with admiration. Truly a legendary ancient breed. Given time, it will surely undergo nirvanic rebirth and ascend to divine beast status. That Arya girl has boundless potential. Arya's smile grew brighter as she basked in the crowd's praises, reveling in the spotlight. Her gaze swept across the room before settling on me with faint disdain. Then she let out that mangy mutt Mordred. Mordred remained his usual lifeless self, sprawled on the ground without even bothering to move, a stark contrast to the radiant fire phoenix. The crowd burst into laughter. Is this that useless mutt Celine used to have? What a complete waste. Senior Arya's too kind-hearted, taking in such trash. Instead of getting angry, Arya wore an expression of saintly compassion when hearing these remarks. Though this poor thing comes from humble lineage, it's still a living being. Since I've taken it in, I'll protect it with everything I have. Her words earned her another round of praise. The master ascended the platform, cleared his throat, and began announcing the Ranking results, unsurprisingly, Aria's Fire Phoenix was awarded the Celestial Upper Grade, claiming the top spot. When my turn came, the elder in charge of records glanced up at me with disdain and said, "Celine, no contracted spirit beast, tier, none." A deathly silence fell over the arena, then erupted into deafening laughter. Daring to attend the tier assembly without a spirit beast, the audacity. What's the difference between a beast-taming sect disciple without a spirit beast and trash? The master's face darkened with displeasure. He glared at me and said coldly, "Celine, since you've chosen to wallow in degradation, from this day forth you shall be a floor-sweeping disciple in the scripture pavilion. The beast-taming sect keeps no idlers." This was outright marginalization, cutting off all my paths to cultivation. Aria stood on higher ground, looking down at me with a victor's poise, the corners of her lips curling in smug triumph. "Don't be sad, little sister, the scripture pavilion is peaceful. You can tend to my fire phoenix for me. It'll give you purpose." I stared at her revolting face, surrounded by undisguised malice. "It's happening." This was the sect I'd once desperately wanted to belong to. These were the masters and peers I'd once revered like deities. Absolutely ridiculous. I raised my head, meeting everyone's gaze, and spoke word by word. "Who says I don't have a spirit beast?" My voice wasn't loud, yet it carried clearly across the entire training grounds. Everyone froze in shock. The mocking laughter died abruptly. Aria's smile stiffened on her face. The master frowned at me. "Celine, enough nonsense. Where is your spirit beast?" I didn't answer him, instead fixing my gaze on Mordred curled at Aria's feet. "Isn't my spirit beast right there? Has she lost her mind? That dog abandoned her ages ago and pledged loyalty to senior sister Aria." "Exactly. Look how it's baring its teeth at her. That's no one's spirit beast." Aria snapped back to reality, looking as if she'd just heard the most absurd joke. "Little sister, have you lost your senses? This poor thing is my spirit beast now. It has nothing to do with you anymore." As she spoke, she bent down and affectionately stroked Mordred's head. A cold laugh echoed in my heart. Mordred obligingly nuzzled her hand before turning to face me with a hostile growl. My gaze turned icy as I stared at it. I raised my hand, forming a simple seal. This was the beast-taming sect's most basic contract seal, effective only on one's own contracted beasts. The next instant, Mordred's growling ceased abruptly. It was as if an invisible hand had seized its throat, its body convulsing uncontrollably while agony twisted its features. Woof, whimper, it howled pitifully, its eyes locking onto mine with sheer terror. The room plunged into dead silence once more. Everyone stared at the scene in stunned silence. Aria turned deathly pale, unable to believe her own eyes. How is this possible? The contract was clearly broken. I advanced toward her step by step, tightening the seal technique with each stride. Mordred's struggles grew increasingly violent. "Release it. Who told you that?" I walked up to Aria, looking down at her with cold dominance. "I merely lent you temporary borrowing rights to its usage. No, I won't lend it anymore." As the words left my lips, my hand seals shifted. Mordred let out a blood-curdling scream as his body went flying like a severed kite string, crashing heavily at my feet. Trembling uncontrollably, he dared not resist any longer, only staring at me with terrified eyes while whimpering submissively in his throat. I raised my foot and planted it on its head. "Now, tell them who your true master is." Mordred whimpered even more pitifully, pressing his body flat against the ground as if trying to burrow into the earth. The scene completely shattered everyone's understanding. A disciple once deemed worthless actually made a spirit beast bow in submission with just a single hand seal. This proves their contract was never severed. Moreover, it's a supreme master-servant pact granting absolute dominance. The masters and elders paled in rapid succession, their faces cycling through shock, bewilderment, and utter disbelief. Aria leapt as if struck by lightning, pointing at me with trembling lips, utterly speechless. Me what?" I glared at her coldly. "Sister, is there anything left for you to say now?" "No. Impossible," Aria finally snapped, shrieking. "This can't be, Master. She must have used some dark magic." "Yes, she was locked in the Frostabyss cave for 3 months. She must have practiced forbidden arts." Her words jolted everyone's memory. "Exactly. If the contract still holds, why did Celine lose control over the dog earlier? Why would this dog take a liking to Aria? There's only one explanation. Celine must have used some unknown method." The master's face darkened. "Celine, you'd better explain clearly what the hell is going on." And overwhelming pressure came crashing down on me, yet I remained completely unfazed, because at that very moment when I stepped on Mordred's head, an incredibly pure demonic energy surged through my feet into my body. The demon transformation art went into overdrive. My cultivation instantly broke through its bottleneck. I raised my head to meet my master's gaze, a wicked smirk curling at the corner of my lips. "An explanation, sure thing, but before that, I'd like to participate in the sex Grand Tournament Combat Trials first. My gaze swept across the room before settling on one of the core disciples. That was Arya's most devoted follower, the very one who'd mocked me the most viciously. I challenge him. The disciple I pointed at froze momentarily before flying into a rage. 3. You reckless fool. Without a spirit beast, how dare you face me, who says I don't have one? The Mordred beneath my feet seemed to sense something, its body beginning to undergo astonishing transformations. Its withered fur started shedding, revealing jet-black scales beneath. The emaciated body swelled unnaturally, bones cracking with a spine-chilling sound. In the blink of an eye, the sickly mongrel had transformed into a colossal black beast, horned and radiating terrifying ferocity. The Devourer, though merely in its juvenile form, the primordial bloodline's oppressive aura made every spirit beast present tremble in fear. Even the once arrogant fire phoenix, Mordred raised its head, crimson beast. Eyes locking onto me, no longer filled with terror but submission. The proud creature lowered its head and gently nuzzled my leg with its horn. The entire hall fell deathly silent. Everyone was utterly petrified by this sudden turn of events. Arya turned ashen pale, her body swaying unsteadily. Her greatest trump card, the divine beast she'd stolen, now lay prostrate at my feet like the most loyal of servants. The masters and elders sprang to their feet in shock, their eyes darting between Mordred and me with a mix of greed and terror. An ancient divine beast, it's the devouring heaven ho. Ignoring their astonishment, I simply gazed calmly at the disciple I had challenged. Now, may I challenge you? The disciple had already turned deathly pale, his legs trembling so violently he could barely stand. I yield. He practically screamed it through tears. I chuckled softly, shifting my gaze to the pale-faced Arya. Sister, how about we have a little duel? My words exploded like thunder across the training grounds, every eye in the arena locked onto Arya and me. One was the former good-for-nothing who'd just revealed his earth-shattering trump card. The other was the fallen prodigy, dragged from her heavenly pedestal with her hypocritical mask torn away. Arya's lips turned bloodless from biting, her venomous glare fixed on Mordred at my feet, eyes brimming with resentment and unwillingness. Why should I compete with you, you monster who practices dark arts? She tried to convict me with her words, whipping up the crowd's emotions. Pity, such petty tricks look utterly ridiculous before absolute power. An elder stepped forward, speaking in an uncharacteristically gentle tone. Now Celine, let's talk this through. When did you form a contract with this devourer? Why keep it hidden all this time? The way he looks at me is like gazing upon a priceless treasure. Wasn't it you who called me trash and wanted to kick me out of the sect before? Now that you see my worth, you suddenly change your tune. That's absolutely revolting. Makes my skin crawl. You flatter me, elder. Mordred has always been my spirit beast. There was never any concealment. I stroked Mordred's horn, savoring the warmth of its affectionate nuzzle. As for its previous form, perhaps this unworthy master embarrassed it too much to reveal its true self. The words carried equal parts truth and pretense. It was indeed my rebirth that allowed Mordred to shed his disguise prematurely. Yet truth be told, it was my weakness in the past life that gave Arya the opening she needed. The elders exchanged doubtful glances, clearly unconvinced by my explanation yet unable to refute it. My master's expression was the most conflicted. His gaze held shock, regret, but above all, the fury of betrayal. Celine, even if it's your spirit beast, you practicing dark magic is an undeniable fact. You owe us an explanation. An explanation? I laughed. What explanation do I owe you? I raised my head, my gaze sweeping across everyone present. When I was misunderstood, not one of you spoke up for me. When I was humiliated, you stood by indifferently, even kicked me when I was down. When I was dethroned, you cast me aside like worthless trash, and now you dare come demanding answers from me. You're not even worthy. My voice was quiet, yet every word struck like a dagger to the heart. Everyone present hung their heads in shame. The master's face turned beet red as he pointed at me, trembling with rage. You ungrateful wretch, ungrateful disciple. I repeated coldly, all warmth draining from my eyes. What a fine, ungrateful disciple indeed. I turned away from him to face Arya instead. Sister, haven't you always wondered how I regained control over it? I paused, then spoke the secret that would plunge her into eternal abyss beneath her horrified gaze. Because I am its true first contractor. You merely stole what rightfully belonged to me through that soul-thieving art of heaven swapping. Soul-thieving art, several well-traveled elders gasped in shock. That's an ancient forbidden art. It can forcibly transfer contractual ownership, but inflicts severe backlash on both the transferee and the caster. Arya's face turned deathly pale in an instant. She knew it was all over. I don't know what you're talking about. You're making baseless accusations. She was making her last desperate stand. I ignored her after that. Mordred's actions had already said it all. It suddenly raised its head with an earth-shaking roar. Those crimson beastly eyes locking onto Arya. It remembered the little girl who saved it from death's door on that rainy night 10 years ago. It recalled that drop of warm vital essence merging into its forehead, and it remembered too, the vile woman lurking in shadows, severing its soul bond with the girl through a beam of sinister light. Raging fury intertwined with a decade's worth of bitter betrayal sent Mordred into complete rampage. It gaped its bloody maw, unleashing a sinister beam of demonic energy that mercilessly blasted toward Arya. Arya shrieked as her phoenix let out a pained cry, attempting to shield her, only to be violently flung aside in an explosion of scattered feathers. The demonic beam struck Arya with devastating force. She was sent flying like a withered leaf, crashing against the distant stone wall before coughing up a mouthful of blood. The spiritual meridians within her body were utterly annihilated by Mordred's primordial demonic energy. From this moment onward, she would remain nothing but a complete cripple. As I gazed upon Arya lying motionless on the ground, her breath fading, not a single ripple of emotion stirred within me. This was the retribution she deserved. I turned around, ready to leave this disgusting place. Halt! My master blocked my path. He looked at me with indescribably complex emotions in his eyes. Selene, you cannot leave. Why not? You bear the devouring skyhound and practice demonic arts. If we let you leave the sect, you'll bring calamity upon the world. You must remain under the sect's supervision. He spoke with righteous conviction. I couldn't help but laugh. To put it bluntly, they just couldn't bear to part with such a lucrative prize like the devouring skyhound. What if I insist on leaving? I raised my hand, dark demonic energy coiling around my fingertips. Mordred stepped in front of me, growling menacingly at the master and the elders. The tension was palpable, ready to explode at any moment. The master's face darkened like a thundercloud. He never expected I'd dare to openly defy the entire sect. Selene, don't be a fool. Even with the devouring skyhound by your side, you stand no chance against all of us. The elders behind him simultaneously unleashed their oppressive auras, dozens of powerful spiritual energies intertwined, forming an invisible net that bore down upon Mordred and me. The very air seemed to solidify. Mordred let out a distressed growl, its scales bristling with tension, though an ancient mythical beast, its juvenile form struggled under the combined pressure of so many skilled opponents. I soothingly patted its head, then I raised my eyes to meet my master's gaze. Slowly raising my hand, tendrils of ink-black demonic energy seeped from my palm, coalescing midair into a vicious obsidian longsword. Ancient, esoteric runes covered every inch of the blade's surface. An aura of demonic sovereignty, purer and more tyrannical than Mordred's, radiated from the weapon. The dozen formidable spiritual pressures crumbled like paper lanterns before this overwhelming presence, scattering instantly into nothingness. The masters and elders staggered back as if struck, their faces contorted with horror. This is the Demon King's artifact. A white-haired grand elder cried out these words in a trembling voice. That's a primordial artifact only the Demon King could possess. How could I possibly have something like this? Of course I wouldn't tell them I'd spent 3 months trapped in Frostpool Cave, forcibly refining it with the demon transformation tome and my own heart's blood. Watching their terrified expressions, the smirk on my lips deepened. Now, do you still think you can stop me? Cold sweat beaded on the master's forehead, his eyes locked onto the demonic blade in my hand, brimming with dread. Even a juvenile devourer of heavens was enough to give them nightmares. And then there's me, wielding the Demon King's artifact with unpredictable power. Even if we win this battle, the beast-taming sect would suffer Pyrrhic victory at best. He couldn't afford to gamble. Amid the standoff, the crippled Arya I'd defeated earlier struggled to rise from the ground. Her hair was disheveled, her face smeared with blood, looking utterly deranged. Master, kill her, you must kill her. She pointed at me with a piercing shriek. She ruined me, she's a demon. You can't let her escape, or the entire cultivation world will suffer. She tried to force her master's hand this way. Unfortunately, she miscalculated. Her master now looked at her with utter disgust. A disciple who stole opportunities from fellow disciples and became worthless holds no value anymore. In fact, it's a colossal headache. If not for her, why would our sect have provoked a future divine beast? The master ignored her outburst, took a deep breath, and said to me, Selene, we'll let you go, but you must swear a heavenly oath never to oppose the beast-taming sect for all eternity. This was the greatest concession he could make. It preserved the sect's dignity while averting a bloody conflict. I stared at him as if hearing the most absurd joke. Make me swear an oath. On what authority? I raised my demonic blade and pointed it at him. The ones who should be swearing oaths are you. From this day forth, any beast-taming sect member who dares appear before me shall die where they stand. My words were domineering, arrogant, leaving no room for compromise. The master's face darkened completely. You're going too far. So what if I am? What can you do about it? I scoffed coldly, wasting no More words on them, for swinging onto Mordred's back, I felt the beast let out a joyous whinny as its hooves left the ground, transforming into a black lightning bolt charging toward the mountain gate. Stop her, my master finally roared in fury, the Sex Mountain protecting array activated instantly, with luminous barriers descending from the sky to trap us. Mordred let out a contemptuous roar, gaped its maw wide, and inhaled violently, the barrier capable of withstanding a full-powered strike from. A nascent soul cultivator was torn apart as Mordred devoured a massive chunk, leaving a gaping breach. We charged through the mountain gate completely unimpeded. Behind me echoed the furious roars of my master and the elders, mingled with Arya's desperate wails. I didn't look back. The beast-taming sect, this place that held a decade of my love and hatred, was now severed from me forever. I, Selene, am reborn. Mordred and I journeyed northward, venturing into the legendary 100,000 Mountains. This was the domain of the demon tribes, a place rarely trodden by humans, where spiritual energy was scarce but demonic aura hung thick in the air. The moment these words were spoken, the entire hall erupted in uproar. For me, this was the perfect training ground. We found a secluded valley and settled there temporarily. By day, I practiced the demon transformation art, while Mordred stood guard or hunted in the mountains. At night, I'd rest my head against his warm belly and gaze at the starry sky. These were peaceful and fulfilling days. Mordred seemed determined to atone for his past sins, attending to my every need with unwavering devotion. It would bring me the most delicious spirit fruits, shelter me from storms with its massive body, and lie quietly beside me during cultivation, barely daring to breathe. But I know we can never go back to how things were. Some wounds, once inflicted, can never truly heal. I accept its kindness and protection, but I'll never invest my heart in it again. Between us now exists nothing but the purest contractual bond. It is my sharpest blade, my sturdiest shield. That day, as I was breaking through the third layer of the demon transformation art, a sudden palpitation gripped my heart. An overwhelmingly dangerous presence was rapidly approaching from afar. I immediately ceased my cultivation and opened my eyes. Is that so? Mordred also rose to his feet, emitting a wary growl from his throat as he fixed an intense stare on the valley's entrance. Soon, 3 figures came into view. Leading them was none other than my dear master. 2 venerable elders with profound auras accompanied him. It seems they still refused to let me go, or rather, they refused to let Mordred go. Wretched disciple, I knew you'd be hiding here. A flicker of joy flashed in my master's eyes when he saw me, only to be replaced by icy killing intent. Today, this old man shall execute heaven's will and purge our ranks. He seemed absolutely certain of our defeat, not without reason. He'd brought the sect's 2 most powerful nascent soul elders, while I was merely a demonic cultivator who just reached the golden core stage. Though Mordred is a divine beast, he's still young and his power only reaches late-stage golden core cultivation. No matter how you look at it, we stand no chance of winning. Master, long time no see, I said as I stood up, dusting myself off without a trace of panic on my face. You've really gone all out to capture me, even mobilizing 2 grand elders. Aren't you worried about leaving the sect vulnerable to attack? Dealing with a witch like you doesn't require all 3 of us. A hook-nosed elder beside the master snorted coldly and stepped forward. This old man alone is more than enough. With that, he conjured a golden net that expanded with the wind, instantly enveloping the entire valley. Heaven's net and earth's snare. Wretched disciple, let's see you escape this time. This net is one of the beast-taming sect's sacred treasures, specifically designed to suppress demonic beings. Once ensnared, no amount of supernatural power can break free. Mordred let out a furious roar, unleashing a dark beam of demonic energy from his maw in an attempt to shred the net. But when the beam struck the golden net, it merely created rippling waves before dissipating into nothingness. Save your strength, sneered the hook-nosed elder triumphantly. This celestial net could restrain even a divine transformation stage demon king momentarily, let alone 2 whelps like you. He formed hand seals, causing the golden net to constrict gradually, pressing toward us. Mordred and I found our maneuvering space shrinking rapidly. Despair, it seemed, had come knocking once more. The master and another elder stood at a distance, watching us with leisurely composure as if observing 2 caged beasts to them. We were already prey trapped in their net. Selene, kneel and beg for mercy now. Abandon your cultivation, and out of past affections, I may grant you the dignity of an intact corpse. The master's voice rang from outside, dripping with condescending benevolence. I looked at his hypocritical face and suddenly laughed. Master, have you forgotten? I still have this in my possession. I raised my hand, and the menacing black demon blade reappeared. The master's pupils contracted sharply. The hook-nosed elder's expression flickered briefly before twisting into a cold smirk. What's a demon king's artifact to me? You're merely at golden core stage. How much of its power could you possibly Unleash, against my heaven's net, all resistance is futile. As he spoke, he intensified his spiritual energy output. The golden net constricted faster, emitting a terrifying suction force that seemed determined to drain the very flesh from our bones. Mordred let out an agonized roar as cracks began spreading across his scaly armor. I stroked his head and whispered, "Don't be afraid." Then I raised my blade. I knew full well my current cultivation couldn't possibly unleash this Demon King's weapon to its full potential, but who said I was going to use it for attack? I took a deep breath and channeled every ounce of my demonic energy into the blade without reservation. Simultaneously, a crimson drop of my lifeblood seeped from between my brows and dripped onto the blade's edge. The demonic blade let out a deafening hum as a terrifying aura, ancient as primordial chaos, erupted violently. Across the 100,000 mountains, every demonic beast prostrated itself in trembling worship. Toward this direction, within the valley, dust and stones swirled as the very heavens darkened. The once indomitable celestial net wailed under the assault, its golden radiance dimming instantly while inscribed runes began shattering link by link. No, impossible. The hook-nosed elder let out a disbelieving shriek as he frantically formed hand seals, desperately trying to stabilize the magical artifact, but it was all in vain. With a thunderous explosion, the heaven-snaring net, the sex legendary treasure capable of imprisoning even a divine transformation demon king, was utterly shattered. The hook-nosed elder suffered a backlash, spewing a mouthful of blood as his aura instantly withered. Both my master and the other grand elder turned deathly pale, staring at me with terror-filled eyes, or rather, at the blade in my hand. How could you possibly awaken the demon king's true essence? Who the hell are you? I didn't answer them. That final strike had drained every ounce of my strength. My vision went black as I swayed, nearly tumbling off Mordred's back. Mordred pressed his head against me urgently, his eyes filled with concern. Go. With my last ounce of strength, I gave Mordred the command. Without hesitation, Mordred transformed into a streak of black light, carrying me as we vanished into the horizon. The master and the grand elder watched our retreating figures, then glanced at their severely wounded companion. Ultimately choosing not to pursue, they were utterly terrified. After what felt like an eternity of flight, Mordred finally came to rest by the shore of a vast lake. I slid off its back, my consciousness already growing hazy. The backlash from forcibly activating the Demon King's artifact was devastating. My meridians are shattered and internal organs severely damaged. Without immediate treatment, I'll surely die here. Mordred circled me anxiously, whimpering in his throat. He licked my face desperately, trying to rouse me. I forced my eyes open just a slit, staring into its crimson beastly eyes brimming with remorse and worry. Don't waste your energy, I murmured weakly. Find a place to bury me. Make sure it's got good feng shui. With that, my head lolled to the side as I completely blacked out. In my last moment of consciousness, I seemed to see the lake part as a handsome man in resplendent robes emerged slowly from its depths. He gazed at me with unreadable eyes. When I came to again, I found myself lying on a soft jade bed. The opulent palace surrounded me, its air thick with potent aqueous energy. To my astonishment, all my injuries had completely healed. My cultivation had even advanced significantly, bringing me to the threshold of the nascent soul realm. I sat up, feeling somewhat disoriented. Where is this place? A clam spirit dressed as a maidservant entered, and seeing me awake, bowed respectfully. Miss, you're awake. Our king requests your presence. The king, following the clam spirit, I stepped out of the palace and came before an even more magnificent hall. Upon the grand dais sat a man in black imperial robes, solemnly enthroned. His striking features exuded authority, with piercing golden slit eyes that seemed to see through one's soul. It was the man from the lakeshore that day. Mordred was curled at his feet, but upon seeing me, immediately bounded over joyfully to nuzzle my hand. It was I who healed your wounds. The man on the throne spoke, his voice deep and velvety. In return, you shall remain here as my queen. What's this? Repaying a life debt with marriage? Since when did demon kings become so straightforward? I laughed. Who are you? I asked. I am Orin, Dragon King of the North Sea. His golden eyes held an inscrutable emotion as he gazed at me. You carry the scent of someone from my past. I frowned but remained silent. How could a mere human cultivator like me have any connection with the Dragon King of the demon race? I won't stay. I flatly refused. Orin didn't seem surprised. I know you have your own vengeance to pursue. He paused briefly before adding, I can help you. Your enemy is the beast-taming sect, isn't it? My heart sank. How did he know? That day when you awakened the Demon King's essence, every demon in the Northern Realm sensed it. It took but a minor trick for this king to uncover your origins. Orin said nonchalantly, the beast-taming sect is merely a second-rate faction. I could annihilate them with a snap of my fingers, become my queen, and I'll raise the beast taming sect to the ground for you. You'll get to execute your enemies with your own hands. His words dripped with temptation. I know full well the weight of a Dragon King's promise. With just a nod from me, my vengeance would be served. I looked at him and slowly shook my head. I'll settle my own score. I hate the feeling of being controlled, and I'll never trade my freedom for revenge. Orin looked at me with a glint of approval in his eyes. Good. I do admire that unyielding spirit of yours. Very well. I shan't insist. But with your injuries still unhealed, travel would be unwise. Why not recuperate here in my dragon palace for a time? When you wish to leave, you'll meet no opposition from me. He's being surprisingly reasonable. That took me by surprise, but given my current condition, I really need a safe place to recover. My thanks, Dragon King. In the end, I decided to stay. Life in the dragon palace was surprisingly tranquil. Orin never brought up making me his queen again, though he sent rare treasures daily to help restore my cultivation. Occasionally he'd visit. Personally, we'd play chess, sip tea, and converse about everything under the sun. I realized he wasn't the tyrannical demon king I'd imagined. He was erudite, wise, and occasionally cracked a dry joke or two, except the way he looked at me always carried a hint of scrutiny and nostalgia. It made me profoundly uneasy. Finally, after half a month, my cultivation base stabilized completely. Even advancing beyond my pre-injury level, I bid farewell to Orin. He didn't try to stop me, just gave me a long, searching look. Take care on your journey. He handed me a black dragon scale. If danger arises, crush this and I shall come at once. 5. I accepted the dragon scale, its lingering warmth in my palm stirring mixed emotions, my gratitude. With Mordred in tow, I departed the dragon palace. Standing on the northern shore, I glanced back to see that magnificent crystal palace had vanished beneath the waves. I took a deep breath and gazed toward the southern sky. Beast taming sect. I've returned. Mordred and I once again set foot on the mountain gate of the beast-taming sect. This time, I made no attempt to conceal my presence. A monstrous aura surged skyward, piercing the heavens. The entire beast-taming sect was thrown into uproar. The mountain-protecting array activated once more as countless disciples and elders rushed forth, battle-ready. At the forefront stood none other than my beloved master. His face turned deathly pale the moment he saw me with Mordred. You, how dare you show your face here again? A barely perceptible tremor ran through his voice. Clearly, what happened last time left him deeply traumatized. Why wouldn't I dare to come back? I leapt off Mordred's back, demon blade in hand, advancing toward him step by step. There's unfinished business between us here, you wretched disciple. Do you truly think we fear you? The hook-nosed elder I had injured earlier had somehow recovered, now bellowing with false bravado. Today, you shall pay in blood. As he spoke, he prepared to strike. A cold laugh echoed in my heart, but my master stopped me. My master looked at me with conflicted eyes, as if wrestling with a difficult decision. Finally, he let out a heavy sigh. Celine, vengeance only begets vengeance. The sect wronged you in the past. If you're willing to let go of this hatred, we'll offer you any compensation you desire. I could even pass the sect leadership to you. He actually chose to compromise, even resorting to tempting me with the sect leaders position. Pity. I'm no longer that little girl who craved the sect's approval. Compensation. The sect leader position. I laughed, a laugh dripping with bitter irony. You ruined 10 years of my life, killed me once, and now think a half-hearted apology can make it all disappear. Did you ever stop to ask whether the blade in my hand would agree? My words made the master's face darken completely. He knew today's battle was inevitable. Form the formation. He roared with fury. All elders and core disciples swiftly took their designated positions, forming a formidable sword formation of immense power. The myriad swords returned formation. This was the beast-taming sect's final trump card, their most powerful combined attack technique. Legend has it this formation could slay even a deity transformation cultivator when unleashed. Countless razor-sharp sword energies surged toward me from all directions, cutting off every possible escape. Mordred roared in fury and tried to charge forward, but I stopped him. This is my fight. Facing the overwhelming storm of sword energy, my eyes showed no fear, only burning battle lust. I raised the demonic blade, channeling every ounce of my power into it. A surge of black demonic energy erupted skyward, coalescing behind me into a colossal 100-giant-tall spectral image of a demon god. The three-headed, six-armed demon god bore a terrifying visage, radiating world-ending malevolence. Third form of the demon transformation art, avatar of the demon god. With a furious roar, I swung my blade downward. The colossal phantom of the demon god mirrored my movement, its six arms smashing toward the sword formation. Boom! The entire mountain range of the beast-taming sect trembled violently. The sky seemed to be torn open by a massive rift. A torrent of energy swept across the entire mountainside. The dust settled. The myriad swords' convergence array was shattered. All the elders and disciples lay sprawled on the ground, coughing up blood, their fates unknown. Only the master remained barely standing. Though his bonded spirit sword had shattered into fragments, he stared at me with eyes brimming with despair and disbelief. You've actually reached the nascent soul stage. Ignoring his shock, I advanced toward him step by step. Now, it's time we settled our score. My master looked at me, a flash of resolve in his eyes. He knew he was no match for me now, but as the sect leader, He couldn't surrender without a fight, he burned his life essence in exchange for a fleeting power surge, launching his final assault against me. With just a flick of my blade, a dark arc of sword light flashed, all his attacks dissipated into nothingness, his body froze in place, a crimson line slowly trickled down from his forehead, thud, his body split in two and collapsed to the ground. The beast-taming sect's leader has fallen. The remaining elders and disciples were utterly terrified by the sight, scrambling down the mountain in blind panic. I didn't pursue them, they were never my target to begin with. I approached the familiar frostwater cave where I'd once been imprisoned. With one kick, I shattered the stone gate at the entrance. Inside, a disheveled, emaciated woman huddled in the corner, trembling. It was Arya. After her cultivation was stripped away, her master imprisoned her here to rot. Hearing movement, she looked up and saw me. Her pupils contracted violently, face twisting in abject terror. You, stay back. She recoiled in panic, like a startled mouse. Didn't you already leave? Why did you come back? I stepped before her, looking down from my full height. I came back to ask you one question. My voice was eerily calm. In my past life, when I was dying, why did you say those words to me? Why reveal the whole truth to me right before my death? Just to watch me suffer, to see me despair. Arya froze, completely caught off guard by my question. She stared at me before bursting into maniacal laughter. Haha. Damn right. I wanted to see you suffer, wanted to watch you despair. She looked utterly deranged, her eyes brimming with venomous hatred. Why were you born with everything? Why did that divine beast choose you over me? I'll take everything from you, leave you with nothing, make you die with everlasting regret. I'll make you understand, you can't defeat me, you'll never defeat me, so that's how it is. It was just jealousy all along. As I looked at her, the last trace of emotion drained from my heart, I raised the blade. Arya's laughter died abruptly as she stared in horror at the knife in my hand. No, you can't kill me, we're sisters. The moment you entertain those twisted thoughts about me, we cease to be sisters. The blade came down. Blood splattered across the cavern walls, the grudges of past lives and present grievances dissolved into nothingness. I stepped out of the cave, sunlight washing over me. I feel an unprecedented sense of relief. Mordred came to my side and gently nuzzled against me. I gazed at it in prolonged silence. Let's go. I swung onto its back. Let's go home. Mordred let out a joyful roar as it carried me flying toward the northern sea behind us. The beast-taming sect burned fiercely in raging flames. This place shall henceforth be erased from the cultivation world. Returning to the North Sea Dragon Palace, Oren awaited me in the Grand Hall. He showed no surprise at my appearance. You're back. His tone sounded like someone waiting for a family member returning late. I dismounted from Mordred and walked up to him. The beast-taming sect is no more. I know. Oren nodded. You've done well. He gazed at me, golden eyes glinting with amusement. Now that vengeance is served and wishes fulfilled, perhaps you'll consider staying as my queen. He brought it up again. I met his gaze without immediate reply. I truly have nowhere left to go in this vast world. It seems only the North Sea Dragon Palace can offer me refuge. Moreover, I don't dislike this mysterious Dragon King. In fact, I even feel a hint of curiosity. Before you answer, Oren said abruptly, I want to show you something. With a wave of his hand, a water mirror materialized before us. Within the liquid surface, the silhouette of a woman emerged, clad in golden court robes. Her breathtaking beauty carried regal grace. The resemblance between her features and mine was uncanny, nearly 70% identical. She sat before a writing desk, gently caressing a black dragon egg. I froze in astonishment. She is my elder sister, the former Demon King. Oren's voice carried a tinge of sorrow. 10,000 years ago, during the Divine Demonic War, she sacrificed herself to protect the demon race, perishing together with the demon sovereign, leaving only a wisp of remnant soul to enter the cycle of reincarnation, and this dragon egg is her only living legacy. He gazed at me with burning intensity. This king has searched for her for 10 millennia. I've searched for you for 10,000 years. My mind went blank with a buzzing sound. Wait, am I the Demon King's reincarnation? That dragon egg is my child. 6 No, this is utterly absurd. I understand this is hard for you to accept at once, Oren said, but the Demon King's artifact in your hand, the demon transformation scripture you cultivate, only those of my royal bloodline can wield them. And then, there's it. He pointed at Mordred. The devouring sky howl is an ancient divine beast that pledges loyalty to only one master in its lifetime. The reason it was deceived by Arya's soul-guiding art is because she carried a trace of your essence. From beginning to end, its allegiance has always been to the Demon King's aura deep within your soul. Everything fell into place. Why does the demon transformation tome feel so attuned to me? How come I can refine the Demon King's artifacts with such ease? What makes Mordred so obsessively fixated on me? Turns out I was never human cultivator Selene to begin with. I am the Demon King. I remained Silent for a long while, struggling to process this shocking revelation, I raised my head and looked at Oren. What about that dragon egg? A glimmer of relief flashed in Oren's eyes. He knew I had come to terms with my true identity. It lies in the Dragon Palace's forbidden sanctum. For 10,000 years, I've nourished it with the essence of my heart's blood, yet it shows no sign of hatching. Perhaps it's waiting for its mother. My heart skipped a beat. Is that so? Mother, the word felt both foreign and familiar to me. Take me to see it, I said. Oren led me to the forbidden depths of the Dragon Palace. On a massive icy jade bed lay a towering black dragon egg, nearly the height of a man. I could sense a faint pulse of life within the egg. I reached out and gently stroked it. The moment my fingers touched the eggshell, the egg gave a violent shudder. A golden light burst through the cracks in the shell. Crack. A fissure appeared on the eggshell. Oren and Mordred held their breath, watching the scene with bated anticipation. The cracks multiplied. At last, the entire eggshell shattered completely. A small black dragon covered in dark scales, with two tiny golden horns on its head, emerged from the broken shell. It opened its pitch-black phoenix-like eyes, identical to mine, and gazed at the world with curiosity. When its eyes finally rested upon me, it paused for a moment, then let out an adorable, high-pitched draconic squeal. Wobbling on its four stubby legs, it came toddling toward me. Before burying itself in my arms, Mommy, it nuzzled against my chest with a sweet, clingy murmur full of affection. My eyes welled up with tears instantly. I reached out and held it tightly in my arms. My century-frozen heart completely melted in that moment. I finally had a home. I have family now. I turned to see Oren smiling at us, his eyes filled with tenderness as he gazed at me and our child. Perhaps staying to become his queen wouldn't be such a bad choice after all. Story 2, Encountered. Snow fog from the little ice age on the road. My husband sold my seat to the neighbor mother and daughter. The little orange cat lying on my lap timely reminded me with its thoughts. Master, it's freezing deadly outside. You must not get out of the car. Put on your winter coat properly. This area will be covered in snow fog. We'll have to wait out these few days before we can leave. I felt as if an awl had been driven hard into my brain, suddenly jolting me awake. Just now, my mother-in-law told me to get off the car. Meanwhile, my husband was bowing his head collecting large red envelopes from the neighbors. By my seat, the little orange cat suddenly kicked its hind legs and jumped onto my shoulder. Big Shot. It's a big shot. With the little orange cat's reminder, I latched onto a Big Shot's coattails, wrapped in a cotton-padded jacket while eating hot instant noodles. Sitting in the Land Rover coldly watching my mother-in-law's family going in circles like ghosts in the snowy mist. 01. Master, we will encounter the little Ice Age snow mist. Once again, I heard the inner voice of the little orange cat. This winter has been intermittently cold. When I returned to my hometown for the new year, I brought 2 large suitcases of winter clothes. My mother-in-law kept nagging at me. On the way back, I started being able to hear the thoughts of the little orange cat. I didn't have a pleasant time in my hometown either. All my relatives back home keep asking me why I don't want children. Living in a big city really makes a difference. You can even choose not to have kids. My husband was playing with his phone nearby, while my mother-in-law pretended not to hear. I was left alone to deal with all these ants and busybodies. On the way back, to save on gas money, my mother-in-law made my sister-in-law's family squeeze into the same car with us. My father-in-law, mother-in-law, and sister-in-law's family all crowded in the front, while I sat in the back alone, holding my little orange cat and a pile of luggage. Thanks to my little orange cat's reminder, my suitcase was packed with cotton-padded clothes. My mother-in-law kept complaining that I brought 2 suitcases of useless things. I thought if I could endure this journey for over 10 hours, I'd be home. Unexpectedly, halfway through, I started feeling the car getting colder. Juno, get out and check how many cars are ahead. My mother-in-law casually ordered me. Ahead was an endless line of cars, one after another. It started snowing outside too, with signs of getting heavier. The little orange cat in my arms suddenly gave a small shiver. That old woman took money from that woman and wants to force Master out of the car. There'll be a brief mini ice age outside. Master must absolutely not get out of the vehicle. We're going to encounter a mini ice zone. You can enter but can't leave. I saw in the distance that our neighbor's car had broken down, and she and her daughter were both looking pitifully in our direction. 02. Our neighbor Celeste takes the same route as us, and she usually looks at my husband with those pitiful eyes. Now, seeing Celeste's gaze directed at him, the man immediately turned his head and glared at me. Juno, get out of the car quickly and take a look. What kind of cursed weather is this? I feel like I'm freezing to death. When my husband spoke, his eyes darted around nervously, clearly guilty. Ugh, what a disgusting thing. Master, don't get out of the car. The little orange cat raised one front paw. What are you dawdling for? Seeing I hadn't moved, my mother-in-law raised her hand to hit me. I quickly dodged. Darwin said it's freezing cold outside. I need to put on more layers. I carried my 2 suitcases to the top and hugged my husband Darwin's thick coat in my arms. Meanwhile, I saw my husband and in-laws all looking down at their phones. That woman handed out red envelopes to everyone, so Celeste was actually offering more money. She was trying every possible way to get me out of the car. Meanwhile, the little orange Kat stared at the trembling Celeste in her own car with its big, round eyes from the window, cursing profusely. "Green tea bitch, honey, get out and check how much longer until we can move forward." He pretended to be the perfect husband. "Honey, sitting in the car for too long is stuffy and uncomfortable. I'm just concerned about you and want you to stretch your legs." Seeing my indifference, my husband tentatively tried again. "Our neighbor's car broke down with their child inside, and they have no air conditioning. They're freezing." You see, as he spoke, his gaze drifted toward Celeste again. It was then that I realized this man had probably been making eyes at Celeste for quite some time. Some men just have a taste for garbage. Then I'll grant him his wish. No air conditioning in the car is truly pitiful. How about we let Celeste and her mother ride in our car? Just as my husband's face lit up with surprise, I sighed again. What a pity there's too much stuff in the car. No room left. 03. Darwin was clearly checkmated by my move. "This damn man isn't worthy of being my husband." He froze for a moment before quickly saying, "Squeeze in, everyone's having a hard time." I glanced outside. A fog had rolled in. Snow carries mist within it. The mist holds wind, and the wind swirls with ice shards. The mini ice age zone only covers this stretch of road, but outsiders cannot enter, endure through this section. The temperature is dropping bit by bit, truly resembling the conditions of a mini ice age is described by the little orange cat. I believe what the little orange cat said. "This snow fog seems intent on keeping everyone here, not allowing outsiders to enter. It's likely that no relevant personnel can come in to rescue us. We can only rely on ourselves now." With the car's air conditioning on, they can't feel how quickly the temperature is dropping. My husband didn't notice anything unusual outside either. He was still collecting red envelopes Celeste and her daughter got into our car with a pile of belongings. After distributing another round of red envelopes, they gave everyone a snack package too, except me. She deliberately smiled at me. "Juno, a household should be led by the man. I've given all the money to Darwin," then took out a piece of dried fruit and stuffed it into Darwin's mouth. Darwin shook his phone at me, still chewing on the dried fruit. "Don't worry, honey. I'll keep the money safe and won't spend it recklessly. He never eats this kind of stuff normally, but now he's enjoying it very much." Meanwhile, I took the opportunity to move my 2 suitcases under my feet and also stuff my husband and father-in-law's thick coats underneath. I was sitting with my legs almost curled up. Celeste only spoke to Darwin after getting in the car. Her daughter suddenly pinched the little orange cat in my arms. This made my little orange cat meow at her. Instead, she screamed loudly, "Auntie, your cat is so scary. Does it not like me?" When I looked at her, she suddenly threw herself into Celeste's arms with a tearful voice. "Mom, this auntie is terrifying. She's going to hit me." I just glanced at her. The little orange cat in my arms had its fur almost standing on end, and meowed several more times. "Little green tea is 04. The weather is getting colder." The little orange cat's inner voice kept muttering, "Grandma and the others are planning to kick me out of the car." Everyone in the car is now looking down at their phones. They created a group chat. My little orange cat seems to know everything. I gently patted its little head. The snow fog outside the window is getting heavier now. The temperature inside the car remains around 23 degrees, still very warm. All the cars on the road were crawling forward at a snail's pace. "Juno, the road is so rough. If we need to push the car later, will you get out?" Celeste suddenly brought up this provocative topic. The mother-in-law sneered. "Of course she should get out and push the car." Celeste showed a hint of smugness again. "There's only so much air in the car. With one less person breathing, it'll be warmer. Having one person get out and push the car can indeed save fuel." The little orange cat in my arms suddenly rolled to my feet. When it looked up at me, it showed an angry expression. Even my little orange cat thinks this is nonsense, but everyone else glanced at me, whether intentionally or unintentionally. "Master, it's freezing outside. You mustn't go down there." 05. My little orange cat is truly angry. Anticipated their anticipation. This husband Darwin is almost becoming someone else's husband now. I don't even want him anymore. Celeste sent him several red packets on WeChat to have him kick me out of the car. Not only can teach me a lesson, but also give him face. A man should act like a man. If a woman doesn't obey, she must be punished, Celeste said quietly, watching as the snow outside grew heavier, a triumphant smile playing at the corners of her lips. I also looked outside. I wasn't sure if it was just my imagination, but the ice on the car windows seemed to have thickened, as if it might freeze the glass to the point of shattering. As I withdrew my gaze, I noticed Celeste had been staring at me. Just then, I saw someone outside park their car by the roadside and dash into the nearby woods. Shortly after, he came running back to the car carrying some firewood. 1, 2, 3 Many people got off the vehicle one after another to gather firewood in the woods. Apparently, many understood that before walking this path, they must first ensure their own survival. The little ice age is temporary. However, this area will be covered by snow fog, making it completely inaccessible to outsiders. It's just that those currently trapped in this area are unaware of this situation. However, all the smart people could sense that something was very wrong. Humans have an instinctive sense of danger even now. Online reports only mention heavy snowfall in this area causing continuous road blockages. Most people are currently wearing light clothing. Everyone is making preparations to keep warm. Ha, what a bunch of fools. Can you even burn firewood in a car? Celeste scoffed at what those people were doing. She glanced at me out of the corner of her eye. Just someone who contributed nothing, soaking up all that warmth for free. I brought so much food, and I don't want to share with this kind of person. Useless thing. The old woman glared at me fiercely, then mocked those people. It won't take long to get through this section. We brought plenty of food ourselves, and the car is warm. What are we afraid of? I deliberately said. Honey, go down and find some wood too. Although we can't burn it in the car, when the fuel runs low, we can light a fire outside to keep warm. 06. My words provoked my mother-in-law to start cursing loudly. You jinx. We'll be out of here soon. Darwin is growing increasingly dissatisfied with me. If you want to pick it up, get off the car and do it yourself. My sister-in-law glared at me. Sis, if you want to get out and push the car, go ahead and do it yourself. My heart sank with a thud, just as the little orange cat said. They're trying to find a way to get me out of the car. As Celeste said, there's food and drinks in the car. We lack nothing, yet only I am the superfluous one. The atmosphere in the car was somewhat strange, as if I were an outsider, and even Celeste seemed like part of their family. They were all chatting on WeChat. I held the little orange cat in my arms. Calm yourself down. At that moment, I saw many people getting out of their cars to knock on others' windows. It seemed they were exchanging items with each other. Some traded instant noodles for hot water, while others exchanged thin cotton clothes for water. Apparently, most people hadn't brought thick winter coats. Juno, you'll have to handle your own meal later. Surprisingly, no one objected to Celeste's words. Just then, someone knocked on our car window. I'd like to exchange some of my food for one of your cotton coats. I was holding two men's cotton padded jackets in my arms. Just as my husband was about to refuse, my mother-in-law looked at me. Don't you have cotton padded jackets in that box of yours? You can trade them for food. The food we brought doesn't include yours. Celeste and her daughter pushed me out with all their strength. With a click sound, the car door beside me suddenly opened. I fell completely out of the car. 07, you can trade your cotton padded jacket for food yourself. Celeste chuckled as she pushed all my suitcases out of the car too. Without me and these things, she can finally lie down comfortably. I looked at my husband, who guiltily turned his head away, no longer looking at me, since he's heartless to me. I won't show them any mercy either. The little orange cat said this area would be covered in snow fog. No one can get out without enduring these few days. Let's see how long the little fuel they have in their car can last. I brushed the snow off myself, handed a cotton padded coat to the man, and draped another large one over myself. I have a piece of news to exchange for a seat in your car. After putting on the large cotton padded coat, the man glanced at my two suitcases. What's in your box? Cotton padded clothes and quilts. The man smiled. Get in the car first, then we'll talk. His car was a Land Rover, which guzzled gas. The little orange cat sprawled comfortably on the big seat, with the tips of its claws exposed. My name is Darwin. If you give me a cotton coat, it won't take long to get you through this stretch, though I don't have much food here. The little orange cat rolled over and stared blankly at Darwin. Big boss, please take me in. The pitiful look of the little orange cat made Darwin laugh. He reached out and gently touched the little orange cat's head. My name is Juno, and everything I'm telling you is true. My serious expression made Darwin stop smiling. Everything I said is true. The temperature outside will keep dropping, the snow fog will get worse, and no one from outside can get in. We'll be trapped in the snow fog, experiencing a mini ice age disaster. Darwin's expression also turned grave. According to what you're saying, we'll encounter a natural disaster. Actually, there's no need to worry. Someone will come to rescue us. It's useless. I shook my head. We'll endure several days of disaster. This area is surrounded by snow fog. People from outside simply can't get in. Darwin didn't quite believe what I said. He immediately made a phone call. After a while, his expression also turned grim. He asked a friend at the weather station, and they hadn't detected any natural disasters in this area at all. This is too strange. The little orange cat couldn't be wrong. If it said outside rescue couldn't get in, then rescue truly couldn't get in. Many people still don't realize they can't get out now. Only when they notice tomorrow and try to contact the outside world will what's happening here be exposed. But it's all in vain. None of us can get out. How long? How long until we can get out? I shook my head. I only know it's been a few days, not the exact details. Darwin gave me a strange look but ultimately chose to believe. He closed the car door and waved to the vehicles behind. One person got out from each car and gathered together. With just one glance, I felt immensely grateful to the little orange cat. If it weren't for the little orange cat reminding me that this person was a big shot with strong survival skills, I wouldn't have given him my cotton padded jacket, nor would I have deliberately let Celeste push me down. I took this gamble. If you win the gamble, you get to live. 08 nighttime temperatures will drop below 40 degrees as darkness gradually falls. Darwin hasn't returned yet. I looked ahead and saw Darwin's car wasn't far away. They were still burning gasoline, with the interior lights on, constantly draining power. I curled the corner of my mouth slightly. You provide the cotton padded jackets, and I'll supply the food for. These days, after Darwin returned to the car, 2 more people followed him over. They discussed and came up with a plan to gather all the people they knew, drain the gasoline from everyone's cars, and in the end, keep only 2 vehicles. One was Darwin's Land Rover, and the other was someone else's off-road vehicle. The more fuel-consuming cars were all abandoned by the roadside. I watched as they proceeded in an orderly manner, remaining extremely calm, and I even noticed something unusual in the snowstorm. They didn't question a single word I said, thinking about my husband, who kicked me out of the car for another woman and didn't even believe what I said. Though heartbroken, I also felt a sense of relief. Their car kept pushing forward, and I could still see it, but no matter how hard they tried to push ahead, they soon returned to their original position. That sense of moving forward bit by bit is actually just an illusion. Darwin and the others just started, leaving many marks on the ground, and the cars abandoned by their companions. After walking for a while, they still ended up back where they started, from the very beginning. The little orange cat quietly nestled in my arms. Every car had its dim yellow lights on, and one car after another kept crawling slowly forward. Darwin was just talking to me moments ago, but now he's fallen silent, even inside the car. I could feel the temperature continuously dropping. It's now clear we're dealing with a bizarre phenomenon, yet the car won't stop, because it can't stop. Stopping means death. Night has finally arrived, with every moving car turning on its lights, crawling forward like turtles. After a while, we returned to the starting point again. I truly experienced what the little orange cat called the small ice age zone. Snow mist swirled around everything outside, relentlessly battering against the car windows. 09. The car was lifeless. Darwin had just pulled the car over and stood outside for a while. Many cars passed us, then after he got in the car, he found his vehicle had returned to its original position. The car following behind us changed from a stranger's car back into his friend's car. However, the cars they had abandoned earlier were still left by the roadside untouched. Darwin and his friend reached a conclusion after their conversation. The boundary issue arises at nightfall. All the bizarre phenomena occur as night approaches. Yet many people remain unaware of this phenomenon, whether noticed or unnoticed. It makes little difference now. Throughout the night, no one would leave the blizzard where temperatures dropped below -40 degrees. No matter how far you go, you'll be pulled back to where you started. Yet our phones can still reach the outside world, but they cannot call for help. Darwin had multiple conversations with that friend who worked at the weather station, could only ask about how the weather was, even mentioned the anomalies in our area, but his weather station friend seemed to automatically ignore the issue. Still told Darwin, the weather's fine, just mentioned it. Didn't you hear? Darwin, drive carefully. There's localized light snow, not heavy, it melts when it hits the road. I look at the snow outside, deeply imprinted by car tires. My heart suddenly tightens. Finally, someone has sensed this terrifying anomaly. I heard someone shouting outside the car shortly after. He got back into the car again. It seemed like it wasn't him who was screaming like a ghost outside the car just now. In this small glacial zone, no matter what you do at night, everything will return to its original state. In the snowy night, there was a ghostly silence. The little orange cat in my arms was purring softly. Darwin glanced back. He pulled out a cigarette from his clothes and felt his pockets again. I took out a lighter from the pocket of the coat draped over me and handed it to him. It belongs to my husband. Then I noticed there were words engraved on the lighter. Celeste. I thought of my neighbor Celeste again. Suddenly, someone screamed again. A ghost barrier. It's a ghost barrier. They gathered some firewood by the roadside, intending to light a small fire outside the car to keep warm. However, just as they got it lit, a gust of wind blew by. Everyone quickly returned to the car. The small fire they had just started outside the car had vanished. The people in that car got back in and continued shouting for a while. On that eerie first snowy night, all the car lights remained on. As dawn gradually broke, many people emerged from the vehicles and rushed toward the nearby woods. My husband Darwin suddenly started walking toward the car I was sitting in. Somehow, he was walking with a limp. Juno, what's with the attitude? Get back to our own car. Darwin now had a scruffy beard and looked utterly exhausted. His eyes peered through the car window at the thick cotton-padded jacket covering me, with another one cushioning beneath. His eyes were completely bloodshot. Darwin reached out to pull the Land Rover's door handle, yanking it several times without success. Although it was daylight now and the temperature was rising, Darwin couldn't stand staying outside for long. I ignored him, closed my eyes and lay back on the seat. That night, no one in any of the cars could sleep. Everyone was returning from celebrating the new year in their hometowns, so there was plenty of food in the cars. Not many had brought winter coats. Darwin and the others had the car's air conditioning on all night, and by morning they probably noticed the fuel was running low. They are in urgent need of cotton-padded clothes now. Seeing that I ignored him, Darwin left dejectedly. During the day, we dare not burn oil, so we gather firewood for warmth. At night, we desperately need oil to run the air conditioner for heating. Everything related to oil is being saved rigorously. As daytime temperatures rose, nearly everyone got out of their vehicles. They gathered in small groups with nearby people. Everyone sought to obtain more information through others' updates to get out. Even if I, the only one who knows, don't speak up, others will gradually figure it out. We are all trapped in a confined space, and during a mini ice age, apart from my little orange cat knowing a bit, no one else has any idea how long we'll be stuck here. The fuel will run out, and the food will be gone. The worst part is, most people didn't have cotton-padded jackets. Most people here think we've encountered a ghost wall. I don't want to get off the vehicle myself, nor do I want to move around first. I don't want to inhale cold air. Second, the little orange cat in my arms has been very quiet. It doesn't move, and neither do I. Just as I was feeding the freshly awakened orange kitten with a cat stick, I saw Celeste. The moment the little orange cat saw her, it assumed an aggressive posture, firmly bracing its hind legs and stretching its neck to stare outside. Celeste was wearing a thick sweater, hunching her neck. As she approached my car, Darwin got off the car to discuss matters with his friends, leaving me alone inside with the air conditioning still running. Celeste saw me enjoying the warm air conditioning alone, her eyes filled with resentment and jealousy. Juno, give me the winter coat from your suitcase. I ignored her. The car was locked, leaving her standing outside, screaming helplessly. Juno, don't be so selfish. We're from the same place. Are you really going to let us freeze to death? Our car is out of gas. Earlier, when Celeste went to find her car, she discovered that someone had siphoned all the fuel and smashed the windows. Everything left in the car, like the cushions, was gone. She originally intended to retrieve these items to claim credit with Darwin, never expecting someone had already set their sights on her car. Now, if Celeste wants to keep staying in Darwin's car, she'll need to make herself useful. She had her eyes on my cotton-padded jackets. I shook my head at her with a cold smile. What do you think is the reason I can stay in this car? As I spoke, I took out a bag of beef jerky and started eating. This is the lunch Darwin gave me. When Darwin returned, he was holding a thermometer and pressed it against the car window. The temperature instantly dropped to over 30 degrees below zero. Meanwhile, the phone displayed the temperature as 9 degrees outdoors with a southeast wind. It's the second day. Darwin's voice was filled with exhaustion. I understand what he means. He wants me to provide some new information. I tapped the little orange cat's head with my finger. It will be even colder tonight. I press my lips together and look out the window at the snow-blanketed space. Someone will die tonight. Darwin's face turned grim. The second night has come. The thermometer stuck outside the car window exploded right after nightfall. The moment it burst, the ice forming outside the window was noticeably thicker than before. The temperature suddenly dropped. Darwin's face grew even grimmer. It must be below minus 40 degrees. At this time last night, it wasn't dropping this fast. He suddenly cupped his hands toward me. Thank you. Once we get out, I'll surely repay you generously. He thanked me for saving his life. The clothes Darwin is wearing now and the quilt covering his legs are all the cotton garments I provided. Moreover, as the temperature dropped, many cars stalled. After all, they were returning from their hometowns, and most vehicles were heavily loaded. Some people started fires inside their cars. Some cars were set on fire during the night. They utilized the concept of the ghost wall phenomenon on the small icy river at night, opening the car door and letting the snowstorm sweep into the vehicle. The person ran outside. In less than a minute, they were back inside the car when the fire couldn't be rekindled, and the car wasn't burning either. Some cars, because the fire caught too quickly after being automatically restored by this area. It only returned to the moment it was first ignited. There was considerable damage. The snow mist is like a monster in the night, ravaging everyone's heart. Someone's dead. Someone's dead. Those who freeze to death at night cannot come back to life. When I saw Darwin again, he was holding a kitchen knife and walked up to me. Open the car door or not. Give me the cotton-padded jacket. Last night, my father-in-law froze to death among hundreds of vehicles. Almost all the dead were elderly. My father-in-law gave the only cotton-padded jacket he had to Darwin. He himself froze to death and was buried in this unknown place. Darwin was not only about to freeze to death, but his spirit had already begun to collapse. With great force, he hacked the kitchen knife several times on the Land Rover. Darwin's eyes bloodshot with rage. Juno, hand me the padded jacket. Of my 2 crates of padded jackets, I kept 2 for myself along with a quilt, giving the rest to Darwin. I need to ensure my survival in the coming days. I have neither food nor water, and might even become a target for others too. Plundered. Darwin and a few of his friends can ensure my survival. It's now the 3rd day. There are some raised grave mounds by the roadside. Some were thrown directly into places buried under deep snow. No one looked back again. Darwin threw a tantrum, and Darwin and his friends pulled him away. Yet Darwin still stared at me. Juno, are you really this heartless? Not even considering our marital bond? I closed my eyes, stroking the little orange cat in my arms. Juno, I won't let you get away with this. The temperature in the car was dropping too. It's too cold outside. Even the best car could stall suddenly. Darwin stuffed someone under the car to block the wind and snow. It can only be said to have a tiny effect. After the third night arrived, not a single person in hundreds of cars was asleep. Many people's car windows were cracked by the freezing cold. Another person has died. Last round it was the elderly. This round it's children. Celeste's daughter couldn't escape either. Celeste stumbled towards me with a knife in hand. I happened to get out of the car to stretch my legs and gathered some firewood from the woods. Just as I placed it by the car, I heard the orange kitten's piercing cry, "Master!" I only felt something glowing shoot straight towards me. With a clang, the kitchen knife stabbed directly into the glass. Celeste flew out and fell down. It was Darwin who turned around in time and kicked her. Meanwhile, I also paused slightly due to the orange kitten's hissing. The kitchen knife flew past my cheek. Celeste screamed like a madwoman. "Juno, I'll kill you, you murderer, murderer. Why didn't you give me the cotton-padded jacket? Why, murderer." I was terrified too, because I had died before too. Celeste was forcibly escorted back to Darwin by two of Darwin's friends. They were very grateful to me. They all showed kindness towards me, but as I looked at the car window glass deeply scarred by the kitchen knife, my heart sank little by little. I don't know how many more days I have to endure. The little orange cat won't tell, but I have this strange feeling that my time is near. I always feel like I've died before. In this sealed-off area, my little orange cat witnessed my death. "I will kill you." Celeste's voice kept echoing in my ears. The third blizzard-swept frigid night has arrived. It is an adversity that people devise solutions. At night, you can always see people finding various ways to kindle fires. It's like bringing hope to people in despair. And human adaptability is remarkably strong. In just 3 days, people have already begun to adapt. They find ways to survive through the night, burn anything flammable, fortify the car with all possible protections, find ways to endure the freezing night. Now our car can no longer start at night either. I was bundled up from head to toe, with the little orange cat nestled in my arms. The interior of the Land Rover was packed with all sorts of things, blocking any cold air that could get in. The night was the coldest. It was also the hardest to endure, as the eastern dawn slowly rises. We welcome the 4th day in this place. Human adaptability is remarkable, as everyone finds ways to survive in the freezing snow. Even the conditions of a mini ice age cannot deter people's courage to keep living. Juno, my mother-in-law who detests me, came swaying towards me, wearing a cotton-padded jacket that was partially burnt. After a night of exposure to the cold wind, I also needed to get off and stretch my legs. To warm myself up. "Juno, I'll trade this with you for a cotton-padded jacket," she took out a bucket of instant noodles. I shook my head. "I don't have any spare jackets left, but I do have one cotton glove." "Deal, I'll take it." The elderly woman's lips were chapped. Her complexion looked terrible, as if she might collapse at any moment, but I shook my head. "1 cup of instant noodles isn't enough. I got 3 cups of instant noodles in a thermos flask." These oversized gloves were originally bought for Darwin, but he thought they looked too silly, so I ended up using them as a cushion for the little orange cat. The little orange cat was very unhappy watching me exchange its 2 large cushions for food, meowing loudly for quite a while. I melted accumulated snow in a lunchbox to make boiling water, then poured it into a thermos. I'm not sure if it's just my imagination. As I ate the steaming instant noodles, I felt exceptionally warm all over. It's like the temperature is rising. I don't dare think too much. When the 5th day arrived, everyone noticed the snow mist was gradually dissipating. The view gradually widened, revealing dense forests in the distance and low rolling hills. The temperature began to rise slightly. The change in temperature gave people hope. Everyone cheered. Many young people are running through the deep snow, freely releasing their suppressed, panicked hearts. Although we are still trapped in this small glacial region, but we can finally see things beyond this area. It's a highway. Someone shouted, though no one knew who. Everyone ran toward that spot like madmen. Unfortunately, gazing at distant mountains, no matter how fast I run, they remain far away. Just a slight rise in temperature gave us hope for survival, making us, who were accidentally stranded in this small glacial zone, believe we might live through this. The 5th night has arrived as well. The snow fog is noticeably less intense. The big guy's survival ability has grown stronger. Those who've survived this long will grit their teeth and persevere till the end. When the 6th day arrived, the snow mist had gradually dissipated. The blazing sun shone upon every inch of the land. The snow began to melt. We went through 5 terrifying days and nights. Everyone screamed, shouting for the warm sunlight that had appeared. The snow mist vanished, and the scenery surrounding us was gradually changing. The snow-covered world suddenly showed signs of green beneath our feet. We no longer tread on snow. Instead, it's the broad asphalt road. Those patches of green are trees standing on both sides of the road, one after another, row after row, with leaves covering the branches. Many people burst into tears, including me as well. Most of us got frostbite. All were hospitalized, including me. What moved me most was the moment we appeared on the highway, seeing faces filled with anxiety and anticipation rushing toward us. There were also ambulances one after another, along with a large number of medical personnel. We thought people outside the small glacial zone wouldn't notice our disappearance or the anomalies here. In fact, they all knew everyone is missed by their loved ones, but the one who should appear never shows up. They always ask about the weather, and later, the phone can no longer be reached. It doesn't seem like the phone is off, but more like being trapped in a place with no signal. Such strange phenomena have attracted the attention of many people. They initiated actions to search for loved ones and rescue friends. They waited right where we lost contact. Finally, the wait is over. The moment we appeared, they ran towards us with all their might. According to expert research, we may have been transported to an alternate dimension for some inexplicable reason. Fortunately, this alternate dimension has time limits and governing rules. We can consider ourselves lucky. After we emerged, the bodies of those who died vanished along with that alternate dimension. When I was still in the hospital, Darwin and a few of his friends came to visit me. They expressed their gratitude to me multiple times, especially Darwin, who helped arrange a great job for me. As promised, I wanted to repay you. Given your family situation, you probably can't stay in this city. I found you a good job. 10. The reason Darwin could help me consider so much is because my ex-husband Darwin and Celeste have caused several scenes before. Darwin hopes to start over. As for Celeste, she always believed I was responsible for her daughter's death. All I know is, it's because she draped the thickest clothes all over herself. Her daughter was so young that she couldn't withstand the cold of the Little Ice Age's late-night temperatures at all. She froze to death. She needed someone to bear the blame, to alleviate her own guilt. This unintended disaster tested human nature. The good became better. The bad became an impossibility for life. Both the little orange cat and I survived. During my hospitalization, it lay obediently by my pillow the whole time, gently snoring, basking in the warmest sunshine. I patted its little belly. Thank you. The little orange cat immediately showed a smug little expression. Master, I want extra food. Okay, I want to eat canned fish every day. I knew you couldn't manage without me.